Hello and welcome to the Sports Podcast presented by the Collings Thode Network. I'm your host, Collings, alongside
Nolan, Thode. One
as
thing
per
I do want to
usual.
mention, the podcasts tend to start with me smiling or giggling or something like that. It's funny because it's usually just because the events leading to the beginning of the recording. But no, I'm in a good mood today, and we're going to be talking about the
Yeah,
NBA. It's been a while since we've talked about basketball. A
it
lot
has.
has
And it's been
happened
really
in the
exciting.
league.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been watching basketball a lot. I know you have as well.
Oh, yeah. Probably my number one sport in the last month or so, especially with the play-in game. Like, I was a play-in game hater for a while, but like, it's given you reason to tune into a lot of these games, especially on the West Coast. So,
hmm
it's been very exciting. And yeah, it's probably been my number one sport I've been watching lately.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, well, mixed with March Madness as well in terms of the
Of
sport in
course.
general. But yeah, the NBA of, NHL, NBA, and then MLB is starting to kick it in. We got some spring training and then opening day is not too far away. Uh,
Yeah,
but
I
uh,
think April 1st for a few teams.
and
So
so
something
no,
real
but
soon coming up here.
but yeah, what you mentioned is just the closeness of the race. I think that's why I've been so invested with the NHL. A lot of the matchups are, set to an extent, or like the teams that'll be
Yeah,
in the
even
playoffs.
like this is a side note. We're not trying to talk about hockey too much, but I was just looking at the standings last night, and the Predators are the first wild card team. Or not wild card, but the first
First
team
team
out of the
outside.
wild card
hmm
race, and they're 5 points behind the Jets. They do have
hmm
2 games in hand, but say they lose one of these next 2 games, that's a 3 point difference that they have to make up, and they and I was looking at the schedules. The Predators have the hardest schedule of either the Jets or the Flames to end the season.
Yeah.
So it's like even in the West Coast, like in the East, we've kind of known forever now, but even in the West now, it's like it's
Yeah.
pretty much set in stone. Like
It's pretty much set in
the
stone.
teams
I
that
think,
are in now are in.
yeah, I think the only really race is between the Islanders, Penguins, and Panthers. Two of
Yeah,
those three teams trying to get in. The other teams in the East, like the Sabres and Senators, have fallen off
yeah, they
from making
just
the playoffs. The Panthers have turned it up. But yeah, we're not trying to talk hockey too
yeah.
much.
No,
It's a basketball
back into
episode.
basketball. Basketball though, to parallel that, even in the upper seedings, it's been up and down. It's been crazy still. Like especially in the
hmm
West, like the Nuggets have had that 1 seed, but now the Kings, the Grizzlies, like all these teams are battling for this 2 seed. And we're also seeing this in the East now with the 76ers and the Cavaliers and the Milwaukee Bucks and Celtics. Like these 4 teams are all battling with each other.
Yeah.
And so like that's the main reason I've been watching basketball more is just because it's been so much more dynamic, and especially in the West, whether it be the play-in or the top, teams getting their star players back, like no matter what it is, it's just been so much more entertaining.
And yeah, I think seeding is super important in basketball, not more than any other sport, but certainly, one of the most
Just
important
as
things,
much,
just
yeah,
because I'm
just as
looking at the
much as any
standings
other
now,
sport.
and, a lot of the teams are not nearly as good on the road as they are at home. Even Milwaukee Bucks, the number one
Especially,
record.
especially the Warriors. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
especially the Warriors. The Milwaukee Bucks are the number one team in the league. They're 30-7 at home, which is great. And they're not bad on the road, but 23-14 versus, 30-7. They clearly play better when they're at home. So, this last little stretch of the season is going to be super important for seeding and really could have an effect on how the playoffs, turn out.
Yeah, it makes me wonder a whole bunch too. It's like, is this a year where we're seeing more home teams win? Like, I feel like that's been a constant trend over the last decade where it's like home teams have less and less and less of an advantage. But this year, it's like you look at the splits and it's like every team's good at home and every team's bad on the road. It's like
hmm
something changed this year. It's like I know for the Warriors, it was like trying to get chemistry back and everything like that. But like
Yeah.
it's extending to every team now. It's like you can't just say it's a chemistry thing. And like I know in the JJ Redick podcast they talked about that, and the Bill Simmons podcast too with the Jordan Poole punch and like trying to build chemistry back. And it takes more than just like a week of playing together after that. It takes months and months to really get that camaraderie back. And
No,
that was the
for sure.
excuse. That was the excuse for the Warriors to be bad on the road. But now it's like, what's
hmm
the excuse? Do fans care more about the games? I honestly that's probably actually a really good reason in my mind with the playing game and these races. Like teams and fans care more about the 6 seed than we ever have before. So it's like I think just the fan interest is making home court advantage relevant again.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I brought up the Bucks as an example for a team that's not as good on the road as they are at home, and that might have been the worst example that I could have brought up. Now I'm looking at the Western Conference.
Oh, yeah.
The Nuggets are only a game above 500 on the road. The Grizzlies are 14 and 22 on the road. The Suns are
Yeah.
15 and 23. The Clippers are only a game above 500. The Warriors, as we've mentioned, are terrible on the road, 9
The
and
were I
29.
I th like, other than they're the worst good team on the road.
Yeah, the Spurs only have 6 wins, the Rockets only have 6 wins on the road, and the Pistons only
That's
have seven
expected.
wins. But like the Hornets have more road wins than the Warriors.
Yeah, exactly. It's
It's
like
pretty
and the
crazy.
Warriors are defending champions. The
Exactly. Yeah.
Pistons and Spurs are not.
Yeah. Two different teams. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we've got some stuff to get into in terms of trade deadline. We haven't made an episode since the trade deadline, so not not super fresh, but still a lot of these trades are gonna have a lot
Well,
of,
I'm
playoff
low key,
implication.
low key. I'm glad we waited a bit now because we're able to actually see what these trades became, and there's
Mhm.
no overreacting. I think I'm not going to
Yeah.
overreact to any
No
deals.
overreacting because I
Properly
think
reacting, like, oh well,
a
there's
lot
one
of
deal in
times too.
particular.
Mhm.
Yeah,
A lot of times too, I feel like guys will get acquired at the deadline and then they go to a new team and then they're not even a part of the rotation. So like if we had made a trade deadline video right at the trade deadline, we would have been like, "Yo, Bones Highland is going to be great for the
Owens Highland's
Clippers."
gonna be great. He's gonna play some good point guard minutes with them shipping off Reggie.
Yeah, but
I would have
now
thought the same for like Cam Reddish getting some run finally. Nope, he's
mhm.
still not getting run.
Yeah. But yeah, so we'll get into the deadline moves, but quickly, the first headline, I guess, that I want to talk about, and you look at the hat that I'm wearing, it's a Grizzlies hat. It's pretty hard to go without avoiding the Ja Morant situation that
Yeah,
was something that I can't remember in my fandom of the NBA. I can't remember a situation like that. I know that, before our time, there were more, players with, vibrant personalities like, Gilbert Arenas and a
yeah.
lot of
Gilbert
people.
Arenas and Josh Childress are like the first ones I'd bring up. Or
Mhm,
maybe it's not Josh Childress, but it's someone. I just know he was the one that like scrapped guys in New York. So it's like,
mhm.
well, it's
Yeah.
like it's the culture is just it's not that anymore. Like
Yeah, and
basketball culture hasn't been that for years. Players come through AAU circuits and private schools now, not the streets and whatnot. So it's like
mm,
it's jarring. It's jarring to see it again. And it's not like I don't know. I feel like if we saw this 20 years ago, like sure it'd be bad, but
mhm.
he wouldn't
Yeah,
miss a
I
minute.
think two things that definitely contribute to that is one, as you mentioned, just the evolution of the game, and now, you know, basketball never really was one of those sports where you needed to come from, good income to make it in the NBA. But now a lot of the times, just with the,
Yeah.
training and stuff that these young prospects go through, you need a little bit of money to help you get along. And John Morant came from a wealthy family. But another thing that I think really contributes to it is just who we see as the face of the league. In the 80s and 90s, it was more glorified to be, a hard, physical, basketball, get into those scraps, Michael Jordan and the Bad Boy Pistons, things like that. Whereas now you have like LeBron, Steph Curry as the face of the leagues, and those are guys that, wouldn't hurt a
Skill
fly type
guys,
of
yeah.
thing.
Skill guys. Yeah, just
A lot
before
more
we
role
actually
model.
yeah, exactly. Before we recorded this, I actually wrote a statement just about it, just trying to get my feelings down so I knew like properly how to articulate how I felt. And I just said I really hope that he's gotten past this like phase of his life
Hmm.
because he's not much older than me and you are. Like
No.
being a 20-year-old guy, like he's what 24. He's four
Yeah.
years, like 4, 3, like 5 years older than me at most. So it's like he's still learning, going through these phases of his life where it's like he doesn't really know what's right or wrong. I don't know what's right or wrong. I know none of us do. Um,
Hmm.
but it's just I hope that he's realized that he is in a position of prominence and importance in the world at large.
Yeah, and
And
I think he has
y- y-
realized that. I mean, in his brief
exactly,
time,
me too.
we obviously it's going to take more consistency over time for us to gain the trust of John Morant again. But he's one of the face of the leagues, one of the most exciting players, and he's in a market where they for so long longed having that
They
face of the
need him.
franchise guy. So
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
no, go
yeah,
ahead.
exactly. Memphis need him. The rest of my statement is I said people idolize Jordan and Kobe and wanted to be just like them. Like this next generation of kids will grow up idolizing the Morants and like the Luka Doncic's of the world and try their best to replicate them on and off the court. A lot of the players that we see nowadays grew up idolizing LeBron James, and that's why we don't have a lot of off-court issues because that was never LeBron's thing. Same with
Hmm.
Kobe after a certain point in time in his life.
Yeah.
He became clean off the court, was a family man, eventually won Oscars and everything. People idolize that. People idolize the work ethic. And that's the same thing that goes with LeBron. And so that's what I'm hoping that Morant is realizing, that people are going to look at him the same way that they looked at the LeBrons and the Kobes and the Jordans and their work ethic.
Hmm.
And I'm just hoping that like he realizes that, and I think he has. And the last thing I wrote is that just like on the court emotions, the general vibe from the locker room that's being displayed in press conferences and in interviews is nothing but good. It's nothing but glowing. The
Hmm.
coach looks happy, the general manager looks happy, and Ja Morant looks happy now.
Hmm.
So that's the biggest thing. I think he has realized it, and I think the energy has shifted, and I think I'm scared of this Grizzlies team now
Yeah. No, I'm
because
scared of this Grizzlies
Tyus
team as
Jones was
well.
so good already, like in that starting spot, bringing
Hmm.
Ja off the bench where he's being efficient and electric, and he's going to start again later with
Yeah.
more conditioning.
No, the Grizzlies are quietly one of, if not the deepest team in the NBA. Like
Yeah,
they have a great next man up mentality sort of thing where, if one player's not having a great game or one player fouls out, Jaren Jackson Jr., who's been incredible in the second half of the season, he was injured all of last year pretty much and
yeah.
the start of this year and they really haven't seemed to, take a step back. I think obviously it's unfortunate everything that happened. And I'm sure there's some embarrassment now that John Morant
Oh,
carries with
definitely.
him through it all. But I think in a way, it was a good thing that things got as bad as they did because, if he wasn't as publicly, flaunting that kind of, I don't know, and I don't want to, offend anybody, but I'd say gangster, I guess, sort of way of life. If he wasn't flaunting that and if he was doing all those things, but maybe just under the rug, there wouldn't have been this big, blow up where, okay, Jaw, you need to change sort of thing. Like maybe he just would have kept going and things could have gotten worse and
Yeah, could
eventually
have went too far.
but yeah, no, so I think him having he missed 9 games. In that 9 game stretch. The Grizzlies went 6-3, which is pretty good. But
It's not bad at all.
the most noteworthy part of that stretch is that they had 2 wins over Golden State and 3 wins over Dallas. So it's not like they were just,
No, those are
luckily going against, the Spurs every other night, which they did beat
yeah,
the Spurs. That was their 6th win. The
as
reason
they
why I mentioned
should.
them. But yeah, I think they were able to stay afloat, and now with John Morant coming back into the lineup, certainly he seems to have, you know, smartened up a little bit, and
Yeah.
he
Well,
seems
that's
to
just
be he more
yeah.
team focused and more ready for, doing what he needs to do to be a leader in this team and to help the team.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what I talk about just with the energy. Just and it's not even just the players and the coaching staff, but it's in the general manager is doing his press conferences after the game, and the general manager is smiling and he's happy, and it's like, all right, that's when you know something is going right here. And it's like they didn't even like, I correct me if I'm wrong, but did they make a trade?
Memphis?
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
they got Luke Kennard,
they did get Luke Kennard.
who was wow, what a pickup.
Yeah, he had
Dropped
10
what
threes
what
the
was
other
that?
night.
Yeah, 30 points just off three-pointers. But it's
They
it's
made
a, it's a
NBA
team
history.
that yeah, how so?
They were the So there's only been 36 games in NBA history where a team has 25 or more threes, and they did that at the most efficient number in terms of
Oh,
shooting
so at least
percentage.
yeah. Yeah. Like,
But
all
yeah,
right,
so
yeah,
I
that's
mean it was a
really cool.
crazy game for them.
Shout out Luke
That
Kennard.
was Ja Morant's return, I think,
Yeah.
or the game after or something like that.
2 nights or 2 games ago for them, I think.
Hmm.
So
I mean,
yeah, John
you
Morant's
really can't ask for a better team for Jaw to come up against. Like in his return, playing the Houston Rockets 2 games in a row. That's a really
yeah,
good like get back to your
being Jaw.
form going
Yeah.
into the postseason. And yeah, I think hopefully in the rest of his career we see a more business, more focused on the game style Jaw because that'll be better for the league, better for the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are my second favorite team, just based off of they were in Vancouver and I've always liked Memphis. But yeah, I think it'll be good if this this short term fix is actually a long term personality adjustment and Jaws able to gain the respect of the league again because I think he lost it from a lot of people. I think a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
people and the Grizzlies in general, Dylan Brooks has been in the headlines a lot lately. Uh, they're just a team that's easy to hate on. I want Ja to give those haters a reason to, I guess, I mean, people hate teams when they win, so I guess if they if they were to win the championship, teams would probably hate them even more, but at least he would get that respect back.
Yeah, they get righteously hated then, like rightfully so. Like you're the top of the mountain. Like we
Hmm.
have to kick you off. We have to hate you now.
Yeah.
But no, it's just they went through the entire trade deadline as one of the top teams where it's like should they even make a move?
Hmm.
And then the moves they made were like, okay, yeah, that's all they really needed to do. Then there's other teams that they're competing with in the West where it's like, wow. The Suns for me were a team where it's like they needed to make a move. That was not the move I like thought they needed to make, but
Hmm.
like we'll get into the trade deadline now.
Yeah.
I'll immediately talk about the Suns trade. Grabbing KD
Hmm.
for
I've
Mikal
got the
Bridges, Cam
details.
Johnson, yeah, and then picks on picks on picks.
Yeah, so
Um,
it was Kevin Durant and TJ Warren, which
yeah,
is
true.
somewhat of a noteworthy
Depth.
piece. And a former Phoenix Sun, and he was there during their, pre-successful days, so it's probably nice for him to be able to go back to the team and they're in a complete different state from when he left them. But yeah, for Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, 4 first round picks, 1 first round pick swap, and then 2 seconds, which they got in return from the Bucks. There's a lot of details. It ended up being a 4-team trade when all said and done. Which the
Most trades actually ended up becoming a four-team trade,
mhm.
weirdly.
A lot of the yeah, just because of pieces in terms of salary and things like that having to be moved. But the only other noteworthy parts of the trade in terms of the 4 teams was Milwaukee got Jay Crowder, which I really like for them for the playoff run. He wanted out of Phoenix, and he's found a landing spot where he's a big part of the rotation and a part of a contending team. And then
Is that
Indiana.
PJ Tucker role?
Yeah, just that, stretch four who's also pretty solid on the defensive end in his own. And then Indiana got Nuora. That was the last little piece. I thought to mention him just because he's a younger player.
Yeah,
Um,
23
and
years old.
and yeah, he's always kind of just been like a bench guy, plays garbage time minutes for Milwaukee. He's with injuries sometimes been a part of the rotation, but now he's going to Indiana where he has a chance to, become a rotation player full
Yeah,
time.
he's always had talent, and he dunked on a guy recently in Indiana. But he's always had the talent. It's just like you're on the Bucks,
Hmm.
like he's not going to see time over like in the days of like Dante DiVincenzo. He wasn't going to see time over him. Even Wesley Matthews, like I would rather play him than Jordan Nwora.
Yeah.
Anyways, good piece for the Pacers though. He'll actually get run. He'll actually get minutes, and he'll become a solid NBA role player hopefully. But yeah, that trade. Basically, what I was thinking about it was the Suns needed to do something. We all knew it. I did not think it was going to be grab the biggest name on the entire trade market.
Hmm.
That was not the direction I was anticipating the Suns going in. I saw other teams grabbing KD, but how do you feel now with the Suns with KD? Well, him getting injured sucks, but like, how do you feel about their odds and their chances and trying to predict the future with this team?
Well, so I was actually in an airport when this thing happened, uh, and Kevin Durant got traded, and my initial reaction was that the Phoenix Suns were going to win the NBA championship this year, and that it wasn't going to be close, and that things just became a little less fun. And obviously, I don't wish injury upon anyone, or, I'm not happy that Kevin Durant got injured, but I think his injury did show me that, okay, this Suns team is going to have a lot of things go right for them in order to win the championship. I don't think it's set in stone. I think they're certainly one of the true contenders, especially on my list. I think, with a player like Kevin Durant, like their five against any other team's five, like starting five or
I'm
whatever.
picking the Suns. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. The Phoenix Suns are just one of the best top heavy rosters in the league. I do think that, with Kevin Durant getting hurt, it is shown that them losing guys like Bridges and guys like Cam Johnson have really hurt the team. And I think, the depth is still kind of putting itself together. Josh Okogie's had some good minutes in Kevin Durant's absence. Torrey
yeah, he's
Craig.
trying to
They
figure it
got
out.
Darius Basley. I wasn't sure if that was like a signing or they traded for him, but they got him somehow. But yeah, I just think the Suns aren't as of cohesive a unit as they were in their finals run in 2021. That team, really came together, and it seemed like, Monty Williams had full control of them, and they were just playing into his system, and it was great. But now it's more so another Durant team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh, completely. And it's impossible not to compare this to the other Durant teams,
Hmm.
and especially based off talent and starting fives. But it's just there's not that feeling of like world ender that the Warriors had, or there's not that feeling of like,
Especially now
yeah,
that we've seen
especially
them
now,
be not as
beaten.
amazing.
And then it's also like it's like I don't get the same feeling that I did when he teamed up with Kyrie and Harden in Brooklyn. Like I thought that was going to be way worse than it was, and I thought that was going to be way worse than the Suns team is going to end up being.
Hmm.
Like worse for the league. Like they would dominate harder. So it's like in a 7 game series, like even with a healthy Durant, like do the Nuggets beat them?
Hmm.
Probably. Do the Kings take them to 7? Hell yeah, they do. Do the I don't know any other West teams really compare?
Lakers, Warriors,
Lakers, yeah,
Clippers,
Lakers could take them to 7. Clippers
Grizzlies.
could take them to 7. Grizz could beat them flat out, like in 6. I could easily see that. So it's like the Suns team is not like sure they grab the big fish, but I see them a lot like the Mavericks now, where it's like sure you grab the big fish, but it's like you're so beatable still. And that's the other big trade I wanted to talk about was the Mavericks grabbing Kyrie Irving and getting worse.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So,
So
well, one last thing I want to say on the Kevin Durant trade just before we
yeah,
move
we
into
jump
the
into
other
that.
trades, is just the fact that, you know, Kevin Durant getting hurt just really changes the rest of the season just because sure he'll come back, but who's he going to be when he
Yeah.
comes back? It's on the same leg, I'm pretty sure, that he had his Achilles tear. So Kevin and another thing too is Kevin Durant hasn't been a guy to shy away from just, losing a season like, oh, whatever, like I'll come back next year healthier, just because he takes care of his body, and he's not the type of guy that I think would push himself so hard, to the point where, to go on like a huge run. So I don't think he'll be able to be healthy for an entire finals run. Uh, so we'll see. Um,
Especially with still 3 year or 2 years or 3 years left on his contract.
yeah, and that's another thing, and that's why it was such an expensive deal, like all the first round picks, and then Bridges, another amazing piece.
Who
I guess
has been amazing.
he's
Oh
been
my
great
god.
on the Nets. He's kind of just been hidden in the shadows, I guess, in Phoenix. Everybody knew he was a solid role player, but nobody really expected him to, you know, be potential number one scoring option on a team. I don't think when it's all said and done, like he will be that guy for the Nets. I think he's best
Not for the
as a
Nets, but I
second or
think
third
for a
option.
different team he could be.
Yeah. But yeah, as you mentioned, the Kyrie trade, Kyrie Irving. So the Brooklyn Nets kind of just blew everything up, which I really like them doing. I think, uh,
Same here.
you know, knowing that they weren't going to be able to re-sign Kyrie next offseason, knowing that that probably leads to Kevin Durant leaving next offseason, they said, okay, what's the point of holding these two guys just for a playoff run that probably ends in a second round exit?
Yeah.
So they traded them all. They got a bunch of assets. This trade they didn't get as much just because Kyrie's only got a year left versus Durant
Yeah.
having
It's a
having multiple
rental.
years. But they did get some assets back. They got Spencer Dinwiddie again, him returning to Brooklyn. Um,
Yeah.
they got uh
Dorian
Dorian
Finney-Smith,
Finney-Smith,
who is yeah.
solid role player
That's a
as well.
huge piece. That's the biggest piece that I think is hurting the Mavericks now.
I think, yeah, exactly. Like bringing in a guy like Kyrie, obviously, you know what that's going to bring to you, but losing a guy like Dinwiddie, who was a good, secondary ball handler to Luca, and then Dorian Finney-Smith, who was a great role player, you know, it's affected this team's, identity, I think, and now maybe they rely a little too heavily on their big two.
Well, that's the biggest thing watching it for me is that Mavericks have been one of those teams that I've tuned into more than most just because it's how could you not? It's
Exactly.
Kyrie and Luca trying to coexist. And the key right there is trying. They
Hmm.
don't. It's no longer there's no system.
Hmm.
Back when the Mavericks were good, when they were being the Suns, when they were making the Western Conference Finals, it was play defense, make some threes, and then get lucky. That
Yeah.
was pretty much it, and it was relying on Luka. Now they don't play defense. They have no interior presence. JaVale McGee was a failure of a signing. Maxi Kleber will foul anyone in the paint rather than playing defense. They give up free and ones, and then when they go down on offense, it's just ISO ball with either Kyrie or Luka, and who else is going to score?
Hmm.
Jalen Green, Dwight Powell, Christian Wood does not work there. We found this all season. Wood does not work with Jason Kidd as a coach. Jason Kidd would much rather play someone that could play defense than actually score the ball. So it's like this
Yeah.
team has been so infuriating to watch, and for all the reasons we knew they would be.
Yeah. I think just this Dallas team is like a 2K team even, just like
Yep. Oh
just
yeah.
get the best name value players you can, but that doesn't always translate, and they're playing like it's like an arcade style game. Like they're
They're playing like it's 2K. On the Through the Wire podcast, Pierre said that this team looks like a guy from one of his leagues.
Mhm,
Like exact that quote. It looks like a 2K team. It looks like they did a fantasy draft and that's their team.
mhm.
It,
Yeah.
and it shows before they made the Kyrie trade, I had them 11th in my power rankings, and we will get into our power rankings later. But that is important to remember
Mhm.
is that they, in my mind, were a top 12 team, like in the top six for each conference. They were
Yeah.
one of those teams to fear. We'll get into it later when we actually talk about the teams, but fear's gone.
Yeah, I don't think the Mavericks like so yeah, as you mentioned, they went to the Western Conference Finals last year, and then they bring in a guy like Kyrie. You have to think that okay, if we were able to go to the final or conference finals last year, now we bring in Kyrie Irving, we should be better, but that hasn't been the case. And
No.
yeah, I think one team that did you know, maybe the polar opposite of the Dallas Mavericks in terms of how the trade deadline changed the trajectory of this team is the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yep.
And I'll just kind of quickly run through the pieces that they acquired, and then I'll talk about where the pieces, like the major pieces that were on their team, where they ended up. So
Yeah,
first
that's
of all,
also how I listed it out. I
and then
listed who the Lakers got and then who they lost and where they went.
yeah,
So,
so another
because
thing
that's
too is
before you start, that's the only way to understand how the Lakers made their trades because there was like 80, it felt like.
yeah, no, it
I
was a
loved it.
it was a bit of a mess of a trade deadline just because of how many trades they made and shaking up their roster. It felt very reminiscent to the 2018 Cavaliers when they kind of just did a
Fire
complete
sale.
yeah, like they traded D Wade and Derrick Rose. I'm pretty sure that they were on their team at that point in time, but then they brought in like Jordan Clarkson, Jay Crowder, guys like that. Um,
Larry Nance Jr.,
and not
yeah.
even just because
George Hill.
not even just because it's LeBron's team. It's just like we don't really see this happen too often in terms of that much change in the roster. But
It does usually happen with LeBron teams, but
mhm, it's true. Yeah, just because he's a player unlike any other, where it's just like okay, if you have this guy, your chances of making the NBA Finals are statistically higher. Um,
over 50%.
So the
Just
Lakers in total, they brought in, and then another thing too about the picks. I'm not going to mention any picks. There were a few second rounders that went to the Wizards, and then I think a first round pick went to the Jazz. I'm not sure exactly what year it was.
one first went to the Jazz, I think 2024, and then it was 2 seconds to the Wizards. Who cares?
hmm But
The
in
players
total,
are exciting though.
the Los Angeles Lakers acquired D'Angelo Russell. Now that I'm saying these trades, we've mentioned three trades, and all three of them have had a former player going back to his old team. We've got D'Lo back to the Lakers, Dinwiddie back to the Nets, and T.J. Warren back to the Suns. But yeah, so they get D'Lo, they get Jared Vanderbilt, they get Malik Beasley, Rui Hachimura, and Mo Bamba. Those are like the main pieces that they acquired. And then Russell Westbrook goes to the Clippers. He originally went to the Jazz, then they released him. Clippers signed him, and then Patrick Beverly to the Bulls. Same situation, but he went to the Magic. They gave up. They just gave up Mo Bamba for nothing. I don't get that trade so much for them. And
I think they
then
got like second rounders, and it was part of the it was part of a 4 team deal, and they got second
true,
rounders from a
true.
different team.
And
They
then
got like a
Thomas
few
Bryant to the
pick.
Nuggets to back up Jokic. We'll see how much minutes he gets in the playoffs. And then another part of that trade as well, Minnesota was involved with D'Angelo Russell. They get Mike Conley, and they also get Nikhil Alexander Walker. So first of all, we're just gonna go assessing this from the Lakers' perspective. How do you feel about this? These? these moves that they made at the deadline.
I think the Lakers won the trade deadline. And I still think that. I thought it at the time the moves were made, and I think it now, seeing it 2 weeks later. I genuinely think that they turned themselves into an actual championship team again.
Hmm.
Going into this year, they had two players, really, that I would say are championship caliber players, and that was LeBron and AD. Now, I would say that the roster is championship caliber because of the fit with LeBron and AD. It's like it's all fit, it's all chemistry. They had no fit earlier, as we all noticed. They were not going to do anything with that team that they had already. There was no fit around your
No.
championship players. Now every single player that they brought in is a puzzle piece that connects to LeBron or AD. And it makes non-championship players into championship players. Guys who we look down on, like Rui Hachimura, for not being the right guy, or Austin Reeves, who before this was just like a fun meme player as a white guy. Now these
Hmm.
guys are viewed, in my mind at least, as championship players and championship contributors now.
Yeah,
I
Reeves is
genuinely think they put themselves in the echelon of championship teams again.
mhm. No, I fully agree. I think, yeah, I guess this Lakers team really, when you look at them, they won the championship only 3 seasons
Yeah,
ago in 2020,
2020,
and the
but
success of that
completely
team
different team.
was they were one of the top defensive teams in the league, and they could stretch the floor a little bit.
Yeah.
They had their shooters. They
Every
had
every
Kuzma, they had
single player
KCP.
on that 2020 team fit with LeBron and AD. Danny
Mhm.
Green, KCP, Kuzma. Those are the big three guys. Caruso. Those are the big four players that gelled with them. JaVale McGee, even
JaVale
that
McGee, yeah.
season, was perfect to play 5 minutes when AD was at the four and to come off the bench. Like
Mhm.
every single player on that Laker team in the bubble complemented LeBron and AD. And I feel that energy right now. Of course, we have not seen LeBron because of the his
Well,
foot injury that usually takes players out for a season, and he's going to
mhm.
come back at the end of the year. Apparently, like
Well,
it's
I'll
just
just I'll just mention
yeah,
the whoever's watching this, by the time they're watching this, they'll know the full result. However, 2 days ago or a day or two ago, LeBron went from out versus the Bulls to doubtful, and then just half an hour ago, looking at my phone, he's been upgraded to questionable today against the Bulls. So LeBron could be back as soon as today. We're recording this
that's
on Sunday, March 22nd or 26th. But yeah, so with LeBron, this team is crazy, and they're 7-3 in their last 10 without LeBron.
yeah. Without LeBron, they're 500 for the first time in like a year and a half, and they've
Hmm.
done it without LeBron.
Yeah,
And now they're gonna bring in LeBron.
yeah. And to anybody who says that like the team is worse with LeBron, is just like no, that's that's just not. When you have LeBron James, when you have a guy who can give you a 30-point triple double if he feels like it on any given night, uh,
Yeah,
that's a plus to any team. You're not gonna
yeah.
subtract
The
that.
guy
Like
that was leading the league in scoring at 37.
yeah,
That's
it's
not
like
a
it,
subtraction.
it's the funny thing to me is in the Lakers situation, it's okay, they're playing well without LeBron. You bring LeBron back, oh, they're gonna be worse. Then you look at the Phoenix Suns, it's like, oh, they're playing crap without KD. They're gonna play better with him back. It's like,
Yeah, or you look at
Why
the
is LeBron
yeah.
toxic? Like
Same
it's
with the
never really been
Grizzlies.
that
It's
way.
like, oh, the Grizzlies played great without Ja, and they're gonna bring
Yeah.
Ja back, and they're gonna be better. It's like,
It's like no, you're gonna.
although people did say that like the Grizzlies are better without Ja for a long time, but so I guess
Because of the
Ja
way their
got that same
record
hit.
showed, but like
Yeah,
in
but
in
we
a in
all
a seven
know
game series in a 1 game scenario, you want to have as many of your top players as you can get. Like
well, yeah,
in a
if
seven
you're
game series,
paying
in a 7 game series, the Lakers, they might give a fight, but it's hard to see them winning
no
it without
LeBron.
LeBron. But with LeBron, they could they could win the championship.
Well, without LeBron, this team reminds me of the Pelicans teams that AD was on. Like, sure, solid playoff teams, not gonna do shit. With LeBron, this is a LeBron team. This is
Yeah,
a through and through LeBron team. So I love the trades. I love the depth. Sadly, Mo Bamba's injured as well, but apparently it didn't matter too.
yeah,
They're so good. I really like this for them. I remember people were hating on them for just bringing in so many players, but it's like 2018 Cavs made the finals, as you said, after rehauling their entire roster. So I really just think that the Lakers won the trade deadline. They got better than any other team did.
Hmm. I'm interested. I'll pose this question to you. What if you were a someone who votes on the all NBA teams, what NBA team would you put Anthony Davis on? Because I could
Second.
argue him second or even all NBA first team, but second at the
I
least.
I
Like,
immediately say second.
mhm.
Um, he's
Who
not
would that first team be? You got
Giannis.
well, the thing is
Yeah,
the center
Giannis is for sure
rule. I don't
forward.
think two centers can both be on it. So I think
Mm-mm.
one of Jokic
It's
and
going to
Embiid is going to
be
be. So I'd say
it's going to
Giannis,
be Giannis and Embiid, and then
and then Joker or Joker, Embiid, one of those two. And
yeah,
then who are the guards on All NBA first team?
uh,
Um,
that doesn't
does
matter really for this debate.
now that I'm thinking about it, like the All NBA teams this year are going to be very interesting. Like,
Oh yeah,
Does De'Aaron Fox get up to NBA second, even first team? Like, he's been having a crazy year. But yeah, the Lakers are a true contender, and I don't feel weird saying that. Like, you and I, when we made our first NBA episode of the season, we were both like, "Oh
we
yeah, I
had
have
them
the
at
Lakers.
10.
We have the Lakers at the 10 seed just because it's LeBron. You can't count him out." But now, like, they're gonna
No,
get
it's
in that
like
play in. They're gonna, or they might even get up to the 6th seed in the West. They might even avoid the play in somehow because they're only,
yeah,
2 games
one one
back or
yeah,
one and a
1 to
half
2
game
games
back.
back. Yeah,
The
of
West
what
is so
the
close. From
yeah, I
four
think the
to
Mavericks right now are in 6,
Yeah, from the 4 seed to the 12
unless they
seed
fell.
is only a 4 game difference. Um,
Crazy. It's
in the
crazy. It's so
West.
much fun to watch. It's the best. So yeah, how do you feel about the Lakers roster? More as a Laker fan, a LeBron fan. How do
Well,
you?
I'm wearing the AD Kentucky jersey, right now, just because I'm high on the Lakers, and yeah, I think they have what it takes. If you look at a starting five in the playoffs, you got D'Lo starting point guard, um, starting shooting guard Austin Reeves. Like, he's been playing
I'd
out of his
start him.
mind.
I'd start him
He
over Malik Beasley. Yeah,
he'd be my starter. Yeah, maybe you put Malik Beasley there just because
I'd put
he's
Malik
a good
Beasley as the
scoring threat.
6th man, the
And
flamethrower
then
off the bench.
LeBron, AD, who's the last piece of that starting five? Roy
Mo
Hachimura
Bamba, Mo
at
Bamba if
four,
healthy. If you
or
want to run a really big lineup, and then yeah, Rui Hachimura at the 4. If you want to go a little smaller.
yeah, and then on the bench you got Dennis Schroeder, Malik Beasley, Wenyen Gabriel, who's solid. Jared
Yeah,
Vanderbilt, no, Jared
football.
Vanderbilt is starting at the four. AD, put him at the five, even though he apparently doesn't love it.
No, yeah, that's
um,
why I said Mo Bamba first, because yeah, like I really don't know why they don't run a double big lineup, especially with Mo Bamba, because he can shoot. Like AD can shoot. You can run a big man like a traditional big,
that'd be
but
fun.
it would
But
be
Jared Vanderbilt's been amazing. He's been a, you know, I think I think if he wasn't in Utah all year, and I think if he was playing the way he's playing on the Lakers right now, the whole season, he would be getting all defensive first or second team,
yep. Oh yeah.
consideration. He's just been
Oh, he'd be
amazing.
right up there with everyone
He
else.
can
Yeah,
guard 1 through 5. I think most notably, the game where they came back, LeBron's biggest comeback in his career, I think it was,
pretty close to it. I'm
against
pretty
the
sure. Yeah.
Mavericks. When or not Wendy Gabriel, Wendy Gabriel also a good, lengthy guy. But Jared Vanderbilt was guarding Luca, and he was clamping him. Luca really wasn't making anything late in game, so I don't know. I'm all in on the Lakers. Uh, I'm 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 really excited for these playoffs to get going. And one thing
Yeah.
I do want to say to you is, you know, looking at the NBA standings right now, the play-in, you got the Lakers in the here in the West. You got the Heat in the East. There's some play-in teams. Do you think this season is the first time we see a play-in team win a round one matchup?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Whether or not, I don't think it's gonna be
I
in
don't
the
think in the East,
East. Me neither.
but like I'd
But
say the Warriors as a 7 seed, the
Warriors have
Lakers as
as
a
a 7
seven
seed,
seed.
Lakers 7 seed.
Like,
They're the only 2 I would
what
really
if we get
put
Nuggets
there.
Lakers round one? Could you imagine?
Honestly, I could see if the Kings end up a 2 seed, they could blow a 2-7 matchup with the Lakers.
Hmm. Just because they don't have that
Yeah,
playoff
it's just no
experience.
experience. As I love the Kings. I love them in any other matchup actually. If the Kings get anyone other than the Lakers, I might pick the Kings. Like Kings
Hmm.
versus Warriors, I'm gonna go Kings. But no, I genuinely think that in the West, whether it's the Warriors, the Lakers, the Mavericks, even, it's going to happen this year.
Hmm. And then one last thing. addition by subtraction in terms of Patrick Beverley and Russell Westbrook, in my opinion. I think Patrick Beverley's a great defensive player. Just he just takes some dumb shots and makes some dumb plays at times. And then you replace
Takes
him
dumb
with other
fouls.
guys who can play defense. It's not like P Bev is needed for the Lakers anymore. Whereas in the beginning of the series, like or season, his defense was important to the Lakers team. Now
Yeah.
it's expendable. And then Russell Westbrook again, another guy who on the right team can work. Just this Lakers team wasn't the right team. Uh,
Yeah,
the
absolutely agreed.
Clippers, is that the right team either? I don't know. I think the Clippers are very interesting.
Yeah.
The Clippers could get swept in the first round. The Clippers could also go on a finals run. So they're
Yeah.
very hard to judge. And then yeah, the last part, I guess we don't really need to talk about Thomas Bryant much. Like
No,
whatever.
but because they got
Um,
Mo Bamba, so I don't really care. But addition by subtraction, early, like coming into the season, they had 6 players that played a guard position primarily. Over 6 players that played guard primarily.
yeah, which
Addition by
is too many.
addition by subtraction is you couldn't get more on the nose with how to
Hmm.
describe that. There's a reason why Austin Reeves is good. There's a reason why Dennis Schroeder is good. It's
Hmm.
because they have the chance to be good.
Yeah.
And they have these guys who weren't good, admittedly, ahead of them.
Hmm.
Like, sure, as good
Yeah.
as Patrick Beverley is, he's a
Hmm.
4 out of 10 player. He's a
Hmm.
4 out of 10 player in comparison to the Dennis Schroeders and Austin Reeves who stepped in and been 6 out of 10 and 8 out of 10 players in his place.
Yeah. And
Russell
then
Westbrook was a 1 out of 10 for the fit and what he was doing to the record. Now
mhm.
we're seeing guys coming in comparison to him. They're 10 out of 10. It is exactly this addition by subtraction. It's just giving minutes and opportunities to the players that will actually win you games.
Yeah. And then now going into the end of the season, LeBron, D'Angelo Russell, Dennis Schroeder, and then Austin Reeves, sure, like he's been dishing it lately, but I think
He's a guard, yeah.
when LeBron
He's
comes
more of
back,
a
he's
guard
not gonna
forward.
have as many ball handling duties. But D'Lo, Schroeder, and LeBron, like at all times in the playoffs, you're gonna have one of those guys, as your primary playmaker, and that's pretty good.
And I'm confident. I'm confident because they're all guys that are over 25 years old. Have been in league 7+ seasons. Like, don't even start on LeBron, but like
Hmm.
it's not just like the 2018 Cavs did a fire sale, blew it up, and they got a bunch of young guys. This
Yeah,
Lakers team got young guys, veterans,
they got
defenders,
it all. Like
everything.
and the fact that they only gave up one first is pretty crazy. Like,
And it's all they really could give up, in all fairness. They only had
eh,
2 to ship.
yeah, but even then, the fact that they brought in like
Oh, yeah.
D'Lo, Vanderbilt,
No,
and Beasley in that
the
one
fact that
trade,
they
like, and they
brought
didn't really
in
give up much.
over 5 roster players for 1 first-round pick,
Hmm.
and then, like, I don't know, like, I didn't write down the picks on the other trades, but, like, I mean, not a lot of firsts were getting shipped off, but, like,
Hmm. It was a
we
lot of
saw
seconds were getting
a
moved.
lot of seconds. It was the year of the seconds. But, Jakob Poeltl, 3 seconds and a first. 5 players got sent to the Lakers for almost the same price it cost for the Raptors to get Jakob Poeltl.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
a bit of
w-
hyperbole, yes.
well, what do you think about Pirtle?
Well, we'll segue into that now. As we're talking about teams that are like competing, especially playing teams, we didn't mention the Raptors as a team that could get a first round upset because they're not going to beat the Bucks or the Celtics.
Hmm.
But my goodness, if they can beat the Brooklyn Nets, like they're not going to pass the Brooklyn Nets for the 6th seed. But
Well,
wow, what a fit! Wow, I
Pirtle,
love the
yeah.
way Pirtle fits in, and I
Mhm.
don't know if they're going to
Well,
pass the
hey,
Hawks either.
hey, 4 trades we've talked about now, and all 4 have
Oh
featured a
my
player
god.
going back to their previous team. But yeah,
Yeah.
Pirtle going back to Toronto.
Going back,
He was
it's
a part
such a
of the
good
Kawhi
fit.
trade. Yeah,
I
I love it.
really
And
like
the
it. I
Raptors have
really,
just
really like this.
this has been what they've been missing. Now I think they're missing more than that at this point in their
Of
team.
course.
I think they're missing a guard outside of Fred VanVleet.
That's been the story all season,
Malachi
though. I've
Flynn.
been I've been preaching that since September.
Yeah, Malachi Flynn has not lived up to first round pick hype.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like a good scorer, but
He's
just
fine.
just
He's
for a
fine.
contending team, he's not gonna get that many
Yeah.
minutes.
I
Um,
wouldn't give him a minute in the playoffs.
but yeah, Pirtle's just a great like energy
Wow,
guy.
he's energy
Um,
guy. Seems like he's just a good tone setter.
mhm, and and
Good
and
tone
and
setter. He
likes it
comes
in
in, he's gonna
Toronto.
teach these youngins.
I think if you're giving up those
Yeah.
picks, you're not giving up those picks unless you're confident that he's going to want to re-sign. I
Oh my
think
goodness. You better not walk after that. The Raptors are a good second round drafting team. We better not have
mhm.
given up 3 potential roster players for
No, I
a
believe
year and a
I believe
half of
Pirtle
Colorado.
likes it. I believe Pirtle likes it here. He likes the guys he's surrounded around. Nick Nurse, obviously, he was never coached, like he was never head coached by Nick Nurse. But
But
he seems to have, good chemistry with him. And
well, Nick Nurse was the
he's only
assistant
ever other
always
been
when he
in
was here.
San Antonio. Like yeah, that's why I said head coach. Like I knew he was a part of the
Yeah,
staff.
exactly.
And then he's only ever other been in San Antonio, so it's not like he's like in love with LA or
Yeah,
anything like that. Like I think he'd be fine re-signing in Toronto, and yeah, I think that's got to be a top priority in this off season. You got
yeah. I
Fred Van
think
VanVleet's contract expires, I'm pretty sure as well.
yeah,
Um, so
that's a different conversation. I think
yeah,
when we get to closer to the offseason,
the Raptors
I
will
think
be
we need to do a
more.
little, yeah. I
Mhm.
think we need to do an episode dedicated on being a Raptors armchair GM because I have a lot of different directions that this team should go,
Yeah.
and a lot of them don't involve Fred Van Vliet anymore.
Hmm. Yeah.
But my biggest thing for the Jakob Poeltl trade, going back to trades, is Christian Koloko, young buck, 33rd overall draft pick, second
Yeah.
round for us. I think 33. Um, has immense potential, lanky body, great shot blocker, is just not there yet.
Yeah.
And we played him already. Like I thought we were going to send him to the G League for this season to develop being a second round pick, but we
Hmm.
played him immediately and
Yeah.
we got burnt a bit by that, but I genuinely think he will be a guy for us and I think Pirtle will instill a bit of that basketball fundamentals to him. Make him more of a NBA big man rather than an athletic freak.
Hmm.
And that's the part I'm genuinely most excited about is what Christian Koloko is going to look like in 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah. We want Christian Koloko to take take more influence from Pirtle than Chris Boucher is what you're trying to say? No, I
Completely
guess.
agreed.
Hmm.
I want him to take more influence from Jakob Poeltl than Siakam. I want
Yeah.
him to look up to Poeltl. I don't want him looking up to Siakam. That's what I mean. Like, if
Hmm.
we're gonna be extreme about it, sure, Siakam's an All NBA player. I do not want Koloko looking up to him and trying to be the next Siakam. I want us to bring in Poeltl, offensive sound, defensive sound, big man, fundamentals. Teach that shit to Koloko. I think with team chemistry, Koloko, Siakam being from the same country, they should be friends and whatnot. Like I'm not
Hmm.
saying that, but I think gameplay wise, I really don't want Koloko's game to stray towards Siakam's. I
Yeah.
want, and especially Boucher, especially Boucher. Oh, if Koloko could very easily become the next Boucher and then
Hmm.
flame out in 6 seasons. But I think bringing in Pirtle has the chance to increase the career of Koloko by 5 extra seasons
Hmm.
just by instilling more fundamentals, instilling more of that like patience, basketball IQ that like when you look at Pirtle, what else does he bring to the table other than being fundamentally sound?
Hmm. Yeah, like when you say fundamentally sound, like I fully agree that that's what teams need to look for. Like unless you have like a top 10 center in the league that is a top, two, top three scoring option on your team, I believe all you should look for, not all you should look for, but like a center should just
Mostly.
be someone who's gonna, run down both ends of the floor, a good paint presence on defense, and someone who's just gonna grab boards like it's nobody's business.
Yeah, and
Um,
box out. Do not give up position inside.
Yeah,
And
just
yeah,
extend
that's Pirtle.
possessions and just play good defense, and that's what Pirtle brings. So I
Yeah.
like it for the Raptors. Hopefully, they're able to retain him. And then another thing, just briefly talking about the Raptors, what do you think about them not, you know, playing
Shit
the role
selling.
of
Yeah.
sellers at the deadline?
I like it personally.
Yeah.
For me, and all offseason, when I look at this Raptors team, genuinely tell me how many guys are older than 25.
Hmm.
Fred Van Vliet and Siakam.
Siakam's definitely over 25 now.
But other than that, the core is all 24 and younger. OG's 24.
But
Gary Trent Jr. is 23. Like it's
would
a
you have
young squad.
would you have taken three firsts for OG?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That I don't understand because we
And a
know
lot
what OG.
a lot of
There's
people like
no
people were willing to give
more.
that.
I know there's no more OG. Like there will be no more to on this Raptor squad. I think like OG is OG now. I think on a different team he could go and blossom into a star, but I think staying on this Raptors team, he's just going to be this guy forever.
Hmm.
And I think if we had 3 first round picks, there's a chance to get an OG Anunoby and then 2 other guys in a later draft class. I think OG Anunoby, as good as he is replicatable. I think he's replaceable and replicatable. I think we can have another guy come in that's 6'7" and defends well, not as well, not defensive player of the year level well that OG
Yeah.
does, but I think we could bring in a 6'7" wing defender and then also bringing in a sharpshooter at shooting guard with a 17th selection, and then bring in a point guard to handle the ball to replace Freddie with those 3 first round picks. It's like, sure. Yeah, you got me thinking about it. It's like, sure, I like not selling for the future because it's a young core,
Hmm.
all 24 and younger pretty much,
The thing about this Raptors team
but they
is
could have
like
gotten younger
they
and
have the
more.
pieces. They have the pieces like to be solid, but in terms of NBA contending, I think they're in the,
Yeah,
similar
unless
similar to where they were in the 2010s. They're just that superstar piece away.
yeah,
Um,
unless they have a Kawhi Leonard type player, they're not going to compete.
and knowing the Raptors, we're not going to get that player in free agency, and we don't have a top pick. So, it'll be interesting to see how this team, you know,
Yeah.
I think if Scotty can work on his scoring a little bit more. Like he's just not a consistent scorer. Like you don't know if he's
Yeah,
going to give you 20
that's
plus
his only
or
knock.
10 points in a game. But yeah,
Yeah.
moving on from the Raptors,
Moving on
going
from actors.
going back to the Laker trade though, the one piece that we didn't really mention that I really like is Mike Conley going to the Timberwolves.
Yes.
Along with Nikhil Alexander
Leaves the
Walker, I'm not
Jazz.
sure how many minutes Na is getting with the Timberwolves.
Not
But he was
many.
he was shooting like above 50% field goal, like his career high. He was doing pretty well in Utah. I'm kind of disappointed that the Jazz move away from him, just because he seemed like a guy that you know could have done something for the Jazz, like could have been a part of their rotation. Like
Yeah, it just
if they're trying to
could have
give
been a
these young
guy.
guys minutes and develop them, I think he could have been one of them, but. He doesn't stay there, but yeah, the big piece mainly is Mike Conley reuniting with Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
That was something that I didn't really realize until you
Oh,
pointed it
I
out.
yeah, that was the biggest thing for me is that like this is gonna make Rudy Gobert a good player again
And
because he
then
has
now
Mike
they're
Conley
getting
to actually feed
they
him.
just got Cat back. They just won the other night with Cat back. This Timberwolves team obviously not as much hype going into the playoffs as they had last year. But who's to say that they can't make a little noise themselves?
Yeah, honestly, they're one of those teams where it's like they're a low seed that could win the first round.
Mhm. And
Like,
another thing too is just the way that this team was built. I love D'Lo. I love him on the Lakers a lot, but I think Conley is just a better team fit.
yeah,
Um,
completely.
just because he's a a superb defensive
He's a
player that's
veteran.
known. He's a veteran. He's been there. And then he's got one of the highest assist rates in the NBA, if not the highest, I'm pretty sure, in terms of per like possession. Like it was something like
Yeah, assist
in doing
percentage.
research for
Yeah,
this, it was like on 40% of Mike Conley's possession or something like that. He gets an assist. I don't know.
yeah, it's
That'd be a
crazy.
crazy amount.
But it was the veteran guy they needed. I mean, we noticed all year and a bit last year too that it just was not working with D'Lo.
Hmm.
Sure, he'd get assists and whatnot, but it just like efficiency wasn't there. And he's one of those guys, D'Lo, where in that situation, it felt like he was passing to get an assist. He wasn't passing to make the right pass. He was literally passing to get an assist.
Hmm.
And now that he's in the Lakers and he's actually playmaking and we're seeing him do the right basketball plays again, it's like he's a different player now. And that's why I think Mike Conley coming in there, like if the Minnesota Timberwolves were to make the playoffs with D'Angelo Russell, I think they get swept. I think now that they have Mike Conley, they're a legitimate 7 game fight to the end series with anyone.
Hmm.
I
Please
think that's the
somehow
biggest
now looking
difference.
at the standings, um, it'll take a lot for it to happen. Maybe not a lot, but please give us Kings Timberwolves round one,
Oh,
because that would
please.
ensure that one of those teams breaks their drought for playoff series.
Oh, that would
Um,
be so good.
and ensuring that one of those is in the second round would be amazing too. Just because I love this Kings team. I'm just so so scared to go all in just because they have great regular season written all over them. I mean, but they've done everything to prove that they can get it done in the playoffs as well. It's just they lack
My
that playoff
biggest fear
experience.
is the experience, and then Sabonis has never done it in the playoffs before,
Hmm.
and
He's been amazing
how
this year.
he has been so good, but
All NBA third team.
he's never just been a playoff guy before.
Yeah,
That's my biggest fear is like if Sabonis can show
they're,
up,
they're gonna be
be
fine
a
in the
playoff
playoffs.
performer.
That
If
that
if
game one,
yeah,
because they've they've done enough that they'll be a home team in a West first round playoff series. They're gonna for sure be a
true.
top 4 seed. That game one back in Sacramento, I'm tuning into. That's gonna be an electric game.
That's gonna
Um,
be TV full volume, just listening to the fans.
yeah,
Like that'll be
exactly.
so good.
No, it'll be great.
Well, yeah, I have one other trade where it's like I really want to get into it and talk about it, and then the rest I just want to get like a 1 through 5 rating on.
Yeah,
But the biggest trade that the last one that I really, really want to talk about is the Pistons getting James Wiseman.
yeah. I knew it was gonna be the trade you were talking about.
It had to be.
Um,
It had to be. It was one of my favorite trades of the day, and
mhm,
especially for every team. If you want to read the full trade, I think it was a 4-teamer. It became a 4-teamer with
yeah.
the Trailblazers,
Trailblazers.
Hawks, uh, and then the Pistons,
Golden State.
Warriors. So if you want to read out the full trade, and then we'll get into it, you go ahead.
Well, yeah. I just have uh, it was picks that ended up in Portland. They didn't get any players when it all came down to it,
Uh,
or
yeah, I
maybe
think
like a
Kevin
depth
Knox.
guy.
I think I got
Oh
Kevin
yeah,
Knox.
Kevin
I
Knox.
think that's
Yeah,
what ESPN said.
future star, former first round pick, Kevin Knox.
Fortnite.
Um, but yeah, so the Pistons, as you mentioned, got James Wiseman. The Warriors bring back Gary Payton, the second, so another player going back to their old team, and then Sadiq Bey to the Atlanta Hawks. So I like.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
love
love
all
Bey
three
going
of
to the.
those.
I mean, I like
I
Sadiq
like it. I
Bey.
like it personally. I like him in Atlanta a lot more than I liked him in Detroit. I felt like he was losing his spot in Detroit. He's losing his voice. He's
Yeah.
losing his game in Detroit. Last season, we would see 30 pieces from Sadiq Bey. He had months of 28-point averages. This year, he'd be lucky to crack 14 points in any given night. He
Hmm.
needed to get shipped off, and he was just being replaced by players I think were less skilled than him as a Sadiq Bey fan.
Yeah.
So I really think putting him next to Trae Young and hopefully taking a bit of pressure off, like crazy as it is to think that they brought in DeJounte Murray to take more pressure off Trae Young, and it still feels like they have way too much pressure on Trae Young.
Hmm.
But he's
Murray's
one of those
assist
guys
numbers
where it's gonna
dropped a
come
lot.
in. It has dropped so much.
Like I
But
want to
it's
get
just I
those
think they're gonna
numbers.
bring him in, and he's gonna fill that like him and Dejounte Murray are gonna play a similar role there, where they're gonna handle the ball a bit more. He's not gonna pass it like Dejounte. Dejounte play makes a lot. He just recently put up 12 assists, but he's gonna come in, handle the ball a bit more, shoot the ball a bit more, play some more defense, and hopefully find more of a 15 points per game groove. But actually be important. He wasn't important on the Pistons. Now he's gonna be playing in a playoff situation and actually be a important player. That's the only reason I like it for him. And I know what you're thinking is that like Sadiq Bey he was showing star potential last season on Detroit, which makes me sad to see him go to Atlanta where he's going to only be a role player. He's
Yeah.
no longer going to have that chance to be a star, but like Detroit gave up on him.
Hmm. Yes. From for the Pistons' perspective, I see bringing in James Wiseman. Like
But that's
he was the second overall pick in
yeah,
2021 or 2020.
2020. 2020 Ant draft.
Was it 2020?
Yeah. Ant draft. They went Ant, Wiseman, LaMelo Ball.
Yeah. So he was only a few years removed of being a top pick. Obviously, hasn't proven or hasn't shown, why he's been that top pick consistently. He's had games where he's like, oh, okay, a nice little double double. Uh, and then he was also one of the league's
Yeah.
worst defensive players in Golden State. But yeah, now you're trading him to a team like the Pistons where he's just,
I don't know if you've seen the
no
stat lines he's put
expectations.
up.
No, yeah, he's been a double double machine, and not even just
And
like
efficient.
barely scraping double doubles. Yeah, he's posting efficient like 15 board double doubles, and he's
Didn't he
getting
put up a
blocks.
22 rebound game? He put up
Maybe.
something crazy where I'll pull up his recent games, but I could have swore he put up one of the more impressive games of the season. Like, not the Zubac 30-30 game, but
Hmm.
it was efficient too. I don't think he missed the shot and scored like 30 points. That's one of the biggest things is that this inefficient center on this Golden State system has now become one of the better shooters in the league. Like, not shooters,
Hmm.
but field goal percentage wise, he's up there with the Mitch Robs and the JaVale McGee's from years ago. Like, he's making his shots. He looks comfortable making his shots, which
Yeah,
he never once has before.
which you gotta love. And another thing too is like as a like I'm a low key Pistons guy. They're one of my favorite teams in the league. Uh, they haven't been good ever in my in my fandom of the league, so I haven't gotten too behind them. But I love Cade. I love Jaden Ivey. I think when you have the ability to trade Sadiq Bey, like as sad as it is to see him go, for a guy like James Wiseman, you're gonna do that. And then it also
Yeah,
proves to me that they're committed to Marvin Bagley potentially because Sadiq
I
Bey
hope
and
so.
Bagley played similar roles in that team. And then yeah, so and then the Pistons as well. They're the worst team in the East. Yeah, they're the worst team in the East by a decent margin. Worst
Yeah.
team in the NBA actually. So they're gonna have number one odds at the number one pick. I think you just know that you're gonna bring in another guy like that. You don't need to, or you're gonna bring in another guy. You know, you don't need to hold on to Sadiq Bey so tightly. And then yeah, the Warriors get back. Peyton, I think it's a good defensive guard. I think they gave up definitely too much. They kind
Yeah.
of like it
Real
was
quick for
originally
Wiseman.
it was they traded
Wiseman.
Wiseman for
Yeah.
5 seconds or something, and then they flipped all
Yeah.
of those picks to the Trailblazers. Like they didn't even keep one.
Trailblazers. But Wiseman, his last two games haven't been good. He only played 19 and 23 minutes against the Atlanta and Toronto. He shot 2 for 6 against Atlanta and then got pulled early, I assume. But March 19th against Miami in a losing effort, played 33 minutes, shot 10 for 13 from the field with a 3-pointer, 22 points, 13 rebounds
Hmm.
on yeah 76.9% shooting. So it's
Yeah.
like more of that, more chances to do that for him. But the Warriors, that was the second name I wrote down. Warriors getting Gary Payton the second back. Inc- he's like, I don't know what it's gonna take for this Warriors team to like actually become like they're not championship anymore in my mind, unless they really shock me. But
Yeah,
he's the step in the right direction
I
for
agree.
them to get that championship identity back, and he brings that. And I'm really glad that they brought him back for the Warriors' sake.
Yeah, I
Even
agree.
if it was an overpay, even if it was a massive overpay, I still really like it for the Warriors.
Yeah. Yeah, and then and I think the last like significant trade in terms of like an actual good starting player, Josh Hart to the New York Knicks. Um,
Yep,
your thoughts on that? I really like it, reuniting him with
I liked it a lot
Villanova
too.
brother, Jalen Brunson. So I think it helps the Knicks. I don't think it makes them like a championship contender, but
Oh, it's helped them a ton. They've been winning more games. They've been consistently top 10 in the NBA standings since making this trade.
yeah, and I just
So,
like
like,
Hart going from Portland to
yeah,
the Knicks. Like
to the next.
get him
It's
out
a
of
good fit.
Portland.
Playing for Tib too.
Hmm.
And they really, and this is where the camera got shipped off. And it's just like it did not work in New York, which
Yeah.
I've been following Cam Reddish just because he was Duke with RJ and Zion, and it's just he was
Hmm.
the guy that didn't pan out, and we're watching now to see if RJ can pan out too. That Duke trio might end up becoming a very cursed NBA trio if Zion can't stay healthy and RJ doesn't blossom and
Hmm.
Cam Reddish is already pretty much done in the NBA. Like,
Yeah, he's on his third team now.
yeah, that Duke team is gonna be tragic to look back on. But no, I
Yeah.
love that. Actually, the last one actually, I do have one last NBA move, like, roster move. It's the 76ers getting McDaniels, who
Hmm.
should be an all-defensive first-team player,
This year?
but because he's played for the Hornets, no one cares.
Yeah.
He's incredible on defense. He's going to be incredible come playoff time, and we're going to see it. McDaniels will step up. Just more so than you know. It's that's the most underrated move of the trade deadline. I think is them getting McDaniels and shipping off guys like Furquan Korkmaz and Matisse Thybulle. It's like those are the basketball moves that they needed to make.
Yeah. No, I really like them doing that. I think McDaniels is going to be a good rotational player for them. Like they outside of their like big players in the past few years, they haven't really had like the depth guys that, that
Yeah,
you have confidence in. like you mentioned Korkmaz and Kybal, like those are guys that some
Yeah,
nights they're going to be a great role player, some nights they're going to be completely invisible. But
yeah.
now getting more support for their big three of Harden, Maxey, and Embiid, I guess Tobias Harris is also like kind of in
Tobias
there too.
Harris,
I
yeah,
don't know. I
solid
like the
role
Sixers.
player. Yeah, and then I like the Sixers.
And then, well, one last thing. If the Pelicans are able to, like, if Zion comes back, they got Josh Richardson from the Spurs. I
They
like
did.
that. I think that could help them. And then, yeah. And then
For
Boston
the
got
yeah,
Mike Muscala.
yeah. Here, I could run through these.
And then
Yeah,
the Clippers,
I
Clippers
wrote
also got Eric Gordon and Plumlee.
and Plumlee. Yeah, I wrote Pelicans grab Josh Richardson to probably not make the playoffs.
Hmm.
I do really like Mike Muscala coming in for Boston for 3-point shooting, and just to make it so you don't have to play guys like Hauser more. You don't have to
Hmm.
play other guys like that. Other moves, yeah. Eric Gordon finally gets freed from the Rockets after complaining about playing for them for 2 straight seasons.
Yeah,
So that's
I
good
like
to
him going
see.
to the Clippers. He's a
Me
good
too.
like Norman Powell's hurt right now, so he's kind of just playing like a norm, like second,
Yeah.
third option on offense kind of role.
And then
But
yeah,
yeah.
that's all the trades that I saw written down on ESPN. There's other small moves like Luke Kennard. I think he
Yeah.
got bought out. I don't think that was a trade,
It'd be
but
weird
small
if
things
I
like
think it might have
that.
been a second or something. Because
Something
Kennard for
weirdly
nothing
small.
would be a
I
great
know.
addition for the
Yeah,
Grizzlies.
and it has been so far.
Yeah.
Um,
And then yeah, so that's pretty much
but
it for the trade deadline.
but now going
Um,
on talking more about the 76ers,
mhm.
and talking about Embiid.
Would you so Embiid
Who's yeah,
and Jokic are the two front runners for the MVP now that there's only, a handful
yeah.
of games left in the season. Giannis
Giannis
is
always
amazing
sitting
as
at
well.
third. He's always gonna sit at third now though,
Hmm.
especially because he has his what, two. So he's yeah.
Giannis's
They're not gonna
defensive
give him
numbers
one.
have gone down though this year. That was one
Yeah,
thing
that
that I
was the
noticed.
scariest part. The
Like,
stocks.
yeah, like he's been a bit of a fantasy disappointment, just like for a top 10 pick, even though it's crazy to think of Giannis being like a disappointment,
Yeah,
but
still averaging like 30 points and whatnot.
mhm. Yeah, but
But yeah,
if you like as I said, if you were the voter for Anthony Davis, what team would you put him on? If you were the voter, who would be your MVP pick?
Joel Embiid.
Yeah, your
Yeah,
team Embiid. Well,
I'm
the
Team
first
Embiid.
thing before we get too into this is I think the real winner of the MVP award, no matter who it is fans of the big man and
Me,
fans
aka
that had to go through DeAndre Jordan All NBA first team big man era where DeMarcus Cousins couldn't stay healthy and there was just like like when I
yeah,
think about it, I think
yeah,
about on NBA 2K when you make a my player, like it shows you like who your
yeah.
like
Player comps.
who the guards are, who the centers are. And like now
Oh,
if you were to make a center, it'd be like, oh yeah, you could be a Jokic, you could be an Embiid and stuff like that. Like those are amazing big men,
yeah.
whereas years ago it was like
Greg
DeAndre
Monroe.
Jordan. Yeah, Greg Monroe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
The big man is back.
as someone who majority of their jerseys they own are big men, I'm wearing the Lowry Markkinen right now. Um, God, I'm so happy.
Yeah,
I'm
shout
so
out.
happy. I just it made me so sad seeing just big men get forgotten about, as well as the mid-range game getting forgotten about as like teams got so hyper extreme
Mm,
in what they were in their systems and schemes. And now we're seeing like guys like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander blossom now with a mid-range game. And we're seeing big men again come back. And yeah, as you said, we're the real fans. The fans of the big man, the fans that like watching a post up drop step, the fans that like watching a high post fade away. Like even LeBron does that stuff, and he's it's been so much more enjoyable watching guys like Embiid be good. I
mm.
wrote two statements, one for Embiid and one for Jokic, and it was just before we started recording. And this is what I wrote. I'll just say this now. And this is like if I were a voter and I needed to give a reason, these would be my reasons. Embiid is leading the league in scoring, 33.3 points per game. The first center to average that much in 20 plus years. And dating back to March 1st, Embiid has scored under 30 points twice, and it's in his last two games. The first one was against the Bulls, where he only played 16 minutes. Um, and then the other one was last night against the Suns, coming off a back-to-back in that game against the Bulls, and he dropped 28 points.
Yeah.
In the most important stretch of basketball, he's been the most important player in the league. I'm not even mentioning the defense and peripheral stats. I was only mentioning that he's been passing like Jokic has. He's put up 7 assists, 8 assists, 5 assists, 7 assists, 10 assists
Only
in
only
just
four on
March.
average, but
Only for on average, but in the
like
month of
when you have
March
the NBA when you have the
specifically,
NBA leader in assists on your team, your
yeah.
numbers are gonna take a hit.
And
James Harden
especially
basically.
with Harden being injured now, having an Achilles pain, that's gonna be like scary for the playoffs. He's had to step up, and in the month of March, I don't know what his average is, but it's probably more than 5.5 assists. And that's
Mhm.
not even mentioning that he is the anchor of their defense. He puts up 3 to 4 blocks a night, and these I'm only looking at his March stats because these are the games that matter.
Yeah.
And this is Joel Embiid, the guy who can't stay healthy. Has he missed a game? He's been playing back to backs. Has he
Yeah.
missed like a game in the last like 2
I'm
months?
not. I can't. I
I don't
don't
pay
know that.
attention enough to the 76ers games, but I looked at the 76ers like latest games and he's playing back to backs. He's
Mhm.
showing out.
One thing
He's
I
playing 30 plus minutes.
One thing I will say is just to correct you, and only like not to correct you, just to correct
Yeah.
you, but to make it a better point. You said it was the last night was the back to back coming off the Bulls game. It was actually the back to back from the Warriors game where
Oh,
he
yeah.
had 46, 9, and 8. So like he has
Yeah, Paul, yeah.
46 like Embiid last year, Embiid 2 seasons ago has 46, 9, and 8. He's probably gonna sit 2 games in a row for load management. But no, he drops
Yeah.
28 and 10 the next day. Like
Literal the next night.
mhm,
Unreal. Unreal. And so we're recording us on the 26th, as it'll say in the intro. But tomorrow night, March 27th, he plays the Nuggets. He faces off with the Joker. And I think how the cards fall, or how the, however works out tomorrow night is going to decide who wins MVP, I think. I think this will be the single most important regular season game of the year. And if there's
mhm,
ever a game to watch, it will be that game.
yeah.
So that's my stance on Embiid winning. Um, just my last statement is while he does not have the same stats as Jokic, he dominates the game in a way that no other player has this season.
Mhm.
It's the domination, it's that Shaq level domination that he's had that no one else. While Jokic is leading the league in triple doubles, averaging a triple double,
Yeah.
first seed in the West.
Not
The
quite
domination,
9.9 assists.
not 9.9, but the domination
Another thing too is it's
by
like
Embiid has been more.
yeah, another thing too is it's like, oh, the Nuggets are the number 1 seed in the West. Like the Sixers are 1 game back of the Nuggets, in
Yeah,
terms of standings.
like
Like they have 49 wins, the Nuggets have 50. Just going through some stats. Embiid has the points edge. As you mentioned, 33.3 points per game, which is crazy. Like
it's the most
um
the center's done since
and Jokic is also
I
not
don't even
known
know.
specifically as a scorer, but like 24.9. So a little bit of a drop off.
Yeah,
Embiid has the extreme advantage there. And then rebounds, Jokic 11.8, Embiid 10.2. Jokic does have the
splitting
edge,
hairs, splitting hairs at that
but
point.
they're both, a double double kind of guy. And then obviously Jokic has the assist edge, averaging 9.9 assists to Embiid's
Yeah,
4. But that's just more of Jokic's game.
it
Embiid's
is. It's
game
how
is
the
is more so like if you look at those assists, he's averaging 6 more assists per game, but Embiid's averaging, 8 more points per game. So really take what you want. And
and
then
look at their respective rosters and look at
mhm.
who's getting assists.
hmm Yeah, exactly. Like Jokic has a lot of talent around him. Like I,
But
I, I
he's
I
the
don't
ball
like the
handler.
narrative that the Nuggets are nothing without Jokic. Like they're still a solid team. Like maybe not as good as they are, but
They're
like
a play-in team, I would say.
yeah, I
Think of
think
them a
so too.
play-in.
And then Embiid shooting a career high 85.6% from the line, which is really good.
Yeah,
Jokic also above 80%, at 82.3. And then uh, pretty much same steals. Jokic has 1.3 per game. Embiid has 1.1. And then blocks though, which is another like blocks is a pretty good stat in terms of those are possessions you're getting. And then Embiid's at 1.7 per game, and then Jokic only at 0.6.
yeah.
Um,
He's just not that guy on
Jokic
that side of the floor.
Jokic has more win shares. If you pay attention to those stats a little more,
Yep.
he has 14.8. Jokic or Embiid has 11.6. I think it's a really close race, but what I do think maybe gives Embiid the edge as of right now is just the momentum that he's carrying into the end of the season, and that
Yeah.
when these vote voters are making their votes, they're gonna remember, the 40 piece that Embiid had and things of that sort. Whereas, Jokic kind of screwed himself, whereas a triple double doesn't, it's not as
Not anymore.
yeah, like a triple double doesn't mean as much when it's Jokic doing it because it's just like, okay, that's what
Well,
he
yeah,
gives you on
it's
any
the
given
Russell
night.
Westbrook thing. It's like, oh, yep, triple double, cool. It's
And
your
then another
33rd. It's
thing,
your
voter
33rd triple
fatigue.
double.
Another thing,
Of
voter
course.
fatigue. Like Jokic has the last two. He might go three in a row. Like I wouldn't be mad if Jokic won, but I would really like to see Embiid take it this year.
Same here. Yeah, that's what I was saying with domination, where it's like domination and momentum and just perception. My uh, little blurb I wrote about Jokic is that Jokic is coming off beating Giannis in the Bucks, like just like last week or just
Hmm.
recently, like this week. Um, and is still the most statistically impressive player we've ever seen. We've ever seen
Hmm.
in our lifetimes, in our parents' lifetimes. Not our grandparents because they got Wilt, but since Wilt Chamberlain, no one has been at this impressive statistically,
Hmm.
and he's still going to lose MVP. Um, I look at this just like when Bill Russell won the MVP, the year that Wilt Chamberlain was averaging 50 points and 24 rebounds a game, and when Oscar Robertson averaged a 30-point triple double. I look at it the exact same way. There's never been this much talent that has been this good before since we were in the 60s, where it was gods on the floor.
Hmm.
I think it's just going to be hilarious when 10 and 10 and loses the MVP, and we're gonna look back on this in 30 years and be like, these guys were gods playing. How did he lose that MVP? And it's because of the domination of Embiid. And it's like just saying that Embiid is the MVP. I'm not knocking Jokic.
Yeah.
This is the most like this 3 year stretch from Jokic is the best 3 year stretch in basketball history. Better than
Regular
any
season.
3 year stretch. Regular season stretch, of course. That's yeah. Like when I talk wilt, like I'm only meaning regular season. Like even it's like
But yeah. No, I see
I,
what
I
you mean.
compare it to like Michael Jordan had 3 year stretches that were this good. Wilt Chamberlain had 3 year stretches that were this good. Did Kareem have 3 year stretches that were this good at this peak? No. He was consistently great. That's how good he's been, and that's how good Embiid is. Like the talent right now is at a level where I'm going to be 60 and I'm going to think that every single basketball player comes after this group of players is awful. That's how good I think that these players are and how good they're playing this year. So it's
Yeah.
not a knock on Jokic that he's not going to win MVP. I still think he's one of the best statistical players since Wilt Chamberlain. But domination wise, Embiid's having an 0-1 Shaq type year, and I can't deny that. I can't deny that in the slightest.
Hmm. Yeah. So I think it, all the awards. I guess I don't even know. I guess Paolo's kind of wrapped up Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, Paolo had that after month
Defensive
2.
player is a little up in the air. People say
Yeah.
Brook Lopez.
I'd
People
say
say Jaren
Jaren
Jackson
Jackson
Jr.
Jr.
I'd say him as well. He's been really good. Most improved player, I'd say that's Lowry's award. You
Larry,
could make the argument for Jalen
with
Brunson,
without a doubt now in my mind.
but I'd still give that to Lowry. Coach of the Year, Mike Brown, Sacramento. You got to
Easily.
give it to him.
Easily.
And then
Executive of the year?
I mean,
I give that to
Rob
Lakers. Is it
Rob
still is
Pelinka.
it still Rob Blanca? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the new 6-man award.
Six man's kind of weird
I
because it
don't know.
was Russ until he got traded, and now it's kind of like
Is it
Brogdon, Bobby Portis,
Brogdon? I think it goes
Poole.
to Brogdon.
Yeah, people are
Poole
leaning
has not had
Brogdon.
that consistent enough. And then the new award, Clutch Player of the Year. Who wins it?
Oh, that's
Yeah,
like one of the main awards.
that's one of the main awards. It's one of the new main awards, Clutch Player of the Year.
Hot take, De'Aaron Fox.
Yep, I completely agree. That is the um, lukewarmest take I've heard all day.
Yeah,
But it has to be. He has to be the inaugural winner. He's the king in the fourth quarter this year. It has to be Darren.
yeah, he's been
Has
great.
to be. So
Yeah,
I
so
love that
now
that's a real award.
now we've both done some power rankings. Both have 24 teams in our power rankings. I think around the top, I think around the top there'll be more room for argument. I mean, there's probably differences in all areas of our list, but I think
Oh,
it's best to
definitely.
just start from the bottom.
Okay,
Um,
we'll go bottom up. Let's go 24 through 20.
like yeah,
Yeah.
well, we can go one by one just because
Oh, okay.
like
24
who's your
Indiana
24?
Pacers.
Indiana Pacers. They're
Yep.
also my 24. They have some like they have some bright spots in
Oh,
their team.
Halliburton, Noah's been balling as we mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
Who cares?
But they get Matherin back. But yeah,
Yeah, Mathurin back, but yeah.
like when they got Noara, something you said earlier in the podcast was like he's like a good like solid mediocre player. Like that's really just the Pacers' identity. Like when are they
Yeah.
gonna be? I'm excited to see the Pacers maybe do a bit of an overhaul. They have some pieces there. Like I think Matherin's a good future
They're in the
piece.
middle of an overhaul. I
Yeah.
think. I think we're watching it by moving Sabonis for Halliburton. That was the genesis of the overhaul.
Mm.
But yeah,
And then
23 Chicago Bulls,
Washington Wizards,
22 Washington Wizards. Um,
22 Utah Jazz.
ooh, okay. Now, okay. I'll wait. I'll wait now. So Bulls and Wizards for me are worse than any West playing team. Worse
Mhm.
than other than Portland.
True.
Portland's gone already. Portland's 25 or whatever. But
Mhm.
Utah. I'm wearing the Utah Jazz jersey. I'll fight for them. Walker Kessler's been single handedly winning them some games. He dropped
Mhm.
31 the other night. There is no way I look at this Wizards team and be like, they'd beat Utah tomorrow night. Nah, Utah's beating them. Same with the
Yeah.
Bulls.
Yeah, I don't know. I just had the Bulls just because they beat the
Vooch, yeah, and Vooch, and
beat the
they've been
Sixers.
rolling.
Yeah, and a little bit of momentum. I feel like Utah's now starting to slow down. But yeah,
Moving Mike
some good games
Conley
lately.
definitely was
Yeah,
the start
and
of
they're
the
they're
slowdown.
prioritizing more minutes to their young core. Achai or Oche
Oh yeah,
Ujagbe or however you
yeah,
pronounce his last name.
you got that.
He's been good really lately. He was the Naismith Player of the Year last year for Kansas, won the title,
Yeah,
and it's rare that like the best player in college becomes an NBA player like Luca Garza and then Zach Edey this year. Like people are saying he's not gonna have an NBA career. But yeah, so uh Jogby or whatever. He's been a bright spot for me. I'm cheering for him. And then yeah, I have the Bulls at 21, just
yep.
above
No,
Utah.
see, no, just above. I have the Oklahoma City Thunder at 21, and
I mean
I
they've
still
won some games lately.
they've won some games. I still have the Pelicans above them
So do
because
I.
I like their roster more.
My
Pelicans
number
are
20,
20.
my number 20 is the Hawks.
Ooh, Hawks at 20.
Yeah, I'm just not like
Yeah,
so
you're not in on them at all.
sold on them. Their
Yeah,
defense
I
is a
don't
little
blame you.
sus.
Yeah, my 20 is the Pelicans just because they've been bleh. I
They're on
wanted
a
them to
four
be
game win
better.
streak.
Yeah, but still, comparing them to the rest of the Western Conference teams, I still like
Yeah,
Utah. Utah picks up more important wins than the Pelicans do.
sure. Yeah, the Pelicans are also pretty low on mine.
Yeah,
Number 19,
19 Utah for me.
I
This
have
is where I slot
Brooklyn.
them. Ooh, at 19.
Yeah, I mean 4-6 in their last
Wow.
10. Just the teams I have above them, I would say have a more shot at going on a run or are just better in my opinion. Um, your number 19, yeah, you said
Yeah, Utah.
Utah. And then my
Chicago is my 23.
18, I have OKC. I have them just above Brooklyn.
18, I have the Toronto Raptors.
Okay. Close to where I have them. 17, I have the Pelicans.
17,
Maybe I
this
have the
is
Thunder above the Pelicans. I'm not sure. They're close.
this
Just a four
17
game win
is
streak.
where I have Atlanta because they're just above Toronto still.
Mhm. Um,
But it's close.
Number 16, I have the Raptors just because
Yeah,
I like the way they've been playing lately. They played the Nuggets close and then they beat them.
yeah,
Yeah, they're just
yeah. I don't hate having them there.
going a little under the radar with how they've just been like solid, not crazy good, but like solid
Yeah,
as of
I
late.
have number 16. This is where we start to get to my like legit teams. Number 16, Minnesota Timberwolves.
Hmm.
I see them on the same level I see the Raptors and the Hawks.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
teams, should be playoff teams, like,
Hmm.
but do I view them higher than that? No, no, sir. 15. This is my biggest fall. Uh, the Dallas Mavericks.
I also have the Dallas Mavericks at
I
15.
almost didn't have them in the top half of the league. I almost put Minnesota over them just because I like the way Minnesota plays basketball more.
Hmm. Yeah,
because
it's just
God, it's so hard to watch. It's so hard to watch
the
Dallas
defense is
Mavericks
not
games.
gonna win a championship.
Not in the slightest.
And then yeah, they're just kind of, ooh, look at this. We have Kyrie. Like it's
It's like,
cool.
ooh,
You
give
see
them the ball
highlights.
and hope they score.
Like he
Yeah.
creates a highlight play, but it's like, oh wait, they're losing to the Hornets.
Yup.
So
It's
yeah,
yeah.
number
I
15.
can't put them up there.
Yeah, number 15. I think is fair for them. I think they could go on a good stretch, maybe claw in and but like yeah, they're outside of the play-in right now. Like if the season
Yeah.
ended today, Dallas Mavericks missed the play-in. Like not even
It's
playoffs, play-in.
yeah.
Um,
Like I
which is
want to put
crazy.
them up there as a team that made the Western Conference Finals last year, but I just can't.
Mhm.
14, uh, maybe a bit disrespectful, but I just can't reasonably put them higher than this, is the New York Knicks.
Okay. No,
They've been
I
really
wouldn't say
hot.
disrespectful. There's just a lot of
It's just
there's a lot
there's so
better
many good
teams in
teams,
it than
but
them.
they've been really good. They've been and they've been on a 3-game losing streak, which doesn't help, but they've been really good. The youth movement's taken over. Thibs is playing young guys. Quickly's been outstanding. Jalen Brunson should have been an all-star with Julius Randle. I think they both deserve that spot.
Agreed.
Um, but I still think I like a lot of the other
There'll be a fun
teams.
playoff series.
Yeah, that'll be
Like
a
I
fun
like
playoff
having the Knicks
series.
in the playoffs. Them against the Hawks a few years ago was
That was
what like
electric, yeah.
in recent memories, it's one of my favorite first round series. Like just
One of the
the
better first
the
round series that we've ever
Trey and
seen.
Madison Square Garden. I'm pretty sure that series went 7 games. Um,
6 or 7, yeah, for sure.
it was a good series nonetheless. My
You're
14
15 or 14.
is Minnesota, so just
Yep.
above Dallas.
Just in that ranking, just
I
in
think
this echelon.
they're more well put together than Dallas is. And then especially with Cat coming back, I think uh,
Yeah, it
14 is
gives them a huge
pretty
advantage having Cat coming
respectable.
back.
And then 13, who's your 13? I feel like this is one of those where we could somehow align.
Nah, we have not aligned here. 13 is where I put the Brooklyn
Brooklyn
Nets.
Nets. Okay.
Yes,
Which is
sir.
fair. This
Because
is where I have Miami, so similar
oh,
to the Brooklyn.
Miami. I have Miami at 12. I'll jump ahead one real quick. Miami's 12, so we pretty close to aligning there. But Brooklyn here is because I still think they make the regular playoffs. I still think they're a top 6 seed, even with this ragtag bunch of guys where
Hmm.
they had to drastically alter their play style. But Brooklyn Bridges is becoming a star,
Yeah.
and he's leading them to wins. And it's like
I
him,
mean,
Claxton, Dinwiddie all together. Like I like that group more than I like the Mavericks, more than I like the Knicks, even more than I like the Raptors and Hawks. Like I still like that group more than I like those other teams.
yeah, I think that's fair. I think like 20 to 12 is like 20, my 20th is the Hawks, and then we'll get into my
Yeah,
12 next. But yeah, I think Miami's just only a half game back from Brooklyn, and I just see Miami
yeah. I
doing a
hope they
little
don't.
more than Brooklyn, Miami
Yeah.
getting that 6 seed, and then Brooklyn being the 7 seed play in.
Well, yeah, and that's why I had Miami at 12 because like I'll be a realist. I want Brooklyn to make a regular playoff spot, but like
Hmm.
Miami's going to. I'll
Hmm.
be realistic
And yeah,
about
my
it.
12 is the Knicks.
And
Uh,
then, ooh, I like that for the Knicks. I do really like that for the Knicks, and that's why I thought I was underrating them, just putting them a few spots lower, more like in the Dallas Mavericks tier. But I personally view the Knicks with the Heat and like the Clippers,
yeah.
which
Well, yeah,
I
my number
yeah,
11 is the Clippers.
my number 11 is also the Clippers because I just don't see them like. I think I think
Paul
our
George
top
getting
10.
hurt
Yeah,
hurts
that
them
sucks. That's
late
really
season.
tragic.
Now they're gonna probably end up being a 6, 7, 8 seed instead of,
Yeah,
being able to be that team that has a solid end of the season and gets
yeah.
the 4 seed in the West. Four
Like
seed in
I
the
thought
West
they
is a
were
really
going
good
to.
race. Like
Oh, it's such a fun race.
the
Uh,
top three have kind of put themselves there. And another thing, this is something I was thinking yesterday. I am so happy that the Kings have done as well as they've done so far. Mainly because it's like now late season, it's like the Kings are in the playoffs. It's not like they're the 10 seed, like, oh,
yeah,
is this finally gonna be the year where the Kings? It's like,
no,
no, they've
it's the
done it.
year.
They're gonna be in the playoffs. They're one of those teams. It's really exciting.
So,
Um,
top 10. Do we have I'm pretty certain now we have the same teams in our top 10. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
we
but
haven't.
order
It's
number
interesting, but
10,
number 10, I have Golden State.
Golden State. Yeah.
You have Golden State as well.
Um, I have also have Golden State at 10.
Nothing against them. I think fully healthy, they're maybe top three, top five. It's just the way that they play on the road right now is
It's
hard.
alarming. It's
It's
alarming,
very alarming.
honestly.
And considering that they didn't have an amazing regular season, they're when it comes down to it, like pretty much maybe first round they get a first round series, but like they're gonna be the
Yeah,
road team in pretty much every series they play.
and I
So
think I don't see them coming out the first round,
yeah.
which is why I can't put them above every other team, 9 and up. I could see winning their first round matchup,
Hmm.
and
And
that's
listen,
where we
I
yeah,
would love Grizzlies Warriors, and I would love the Grizzlies to
another
beat the
yeah,
Warriors. I would love
another
the Grizzlies
Grizzlies
to
Warriors matchup.
and to say like, oh, the Grizzlies finally get their thing over the Warriors, like this is very
Yeah,
low key, but the Grizzlies did end the Warriors season 2 years ago in
in
the
the play-in.
play-in.
That's
So
true. That's where the rivalry kind of started.
mhm.
And
Like people don't really think back so far to that. They think more of the series last year, just the regular season this year. But like, yeah, the Grizzlies and Warriors have been going back at it for a few years now. That'd be a
yeah,
great
it's been hype.
series. They're my number
So
10.
now we get into the top 9, which is my legit like, oh,
Yeah.
any of these teams could win a championship, and I would say, yep, makes sense.
Okay.
So, number 9, Los Angeles Lakers, the 5th best team in the Western Conference in my mind.
Okay. My number 9 is Phoenix, just because the way that they're playing without Durant, I'm a
It's
little
alarming.
uncertain on them. When Durant comes back, obviously they're gonna be good. But like again, Durant I think has only played 2 games with them, maybe three. But like it was against like Hornets and the Bulls, so it's
Yeah.
and then they had a close game. I think I want to pull this up because I know I do remember he did have a third game and it was against a good team, so it kind of like proved them a little bit. But again, like
Yeah. I can't remember who
just
it
the
is.
teams that are ahead of them, I just like a little bit more than them. And the thing is if I know Durant's healthy, they beat the Mavericks with Durant. So
Yeah, which
so even
yeah.
then, like
The Durant versus Kyrie game.
but the teams
I don't
above
even know if
them I
Kyrie
like
played.
better than them. And then also, you know, saying when Durant comes back doesn't necessarily mean he's going to come back and be Durant. Like,
Yeah.
obviously,
Oh
we
yeah.
can maybe expect that a little bit just because of what he's come back from before. But
Yeah.
this ankle injury could be something that really bothers him in the playoffs. So,
The hope is it's not just for the sake of the fans and whatnot and just the enjoyment of basketball, but
mm,
no, that's scary. That's the only reason I don't have them. Even then, I think for me, Phoenix Suns 8. I have them just
the
above
Lakers are my
the
8. So
Lakers.
we have
So yeah, we flip flopped there, and I think it's a genuine conversation about which roster is better, because I think on paper the Phoenix Suns roster just looks better, but like how they've been playing lately, especially missing their stars, as you talk about, it's reasonable to think that yeah, the Lakers definitely deserve to be above the Suns at this point.
mhm,
I just I always like to think about that one-on-one matchup where if fully healthy, of course, you have to think of it that way. Fully healthy, if the Suns team and those Lakers teams were to match up, I gotta go Suns, and that's why
yeah,
I put the Suns one spot above them. But
that's fair.
and then we hop up into this next group of teams where 7 to the 1, like I see the Suns and Lakers are now in their own like A minus tier, and then we have the A teams, and then we have the A plus teams. Um,
Number
so we'll jump into
7,
7, the
Philly.
Philadelphia 76ers for me.
Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
I have Sacramento. That's my 7.
nice. I like that. To jump ahead one spot, Sacramento's my 6, so we're not all out of whack here. But Philadelphia, and this is
I'm
like what you
interested
were
to see
saying
why
with
you don't have
yeah,
them as an A plus team.
health is the number one thing, and expectations, health and expectations, where it's like we've never once seen Embiid play a full playoffs without getting hurt.
True.
James Harden has an Achilles soreness,
Mhm.
and he's not going to be back in a week. Doctors say, like, this is from the Bill Simmons podcast, where they were like, and on Through the Wire, and then on the JJ Redick podcast, where they talked about that, and they all three of them talked about how doctors say this is like a 3 to 4 month thing where it's like you're not going to be able to come back and be yourself in a week. Like you'll be able to move, sure, but you're not going to be yourself for like a month
Mhm.
with this type of pain and soreness. And we saw it in Brooklyn. Harden, who's not himself, is a B minus player at best. He was a C plus player in Brooklyn. And if he brings that to Philly, any East team will have a field day with them. He will be slow, he'll be lethargic, and his foot speed won't be there. his step back won't be there, his shot won't be there, and Embiid is going to be forced to do more. And who's to say the wheels don't fall off? In comparison to the teams I have above them, there's a lot more security, and the perception of them is a lot more safe, just safe. I trust the teams all above them, and that includes the Sacramento Kings. Like I trust the Sacramento Kings. You look at the Sacramento Kings, Darren Fox and Sabonis have not missed time, and
Mhm.
I don't expect them to miss
Extended
time.
time.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Game year there happens.
Sabonis broke his hand and kept playing.
Yeah.
And this is what we're talking about with the Embiid MVP candidacy, where it's like if he dropped 47, he would rest 2 games. He's been playing back to backs. I don't know how long I trust the wheels to fall on, the wheels to stay on for.
Mhm. That's a good
Um,
point.
and then I look at the other teams, just the Bucks, Celtics, Nuggets, Cavs, Grizzlies, Kings, in comparison to the 76ers team, where it's like detrimental things matter more to the 76ers to every other team. 76ers losing Harden for this last stretch could be an eye opener for where they really should be valued in comparison to the Grizzlies losing Ja and still being a top team, no doubt.
Sure.
In comparison to the Celtics, practically losing Smart for a long time and still being a top team. I think in this next 2 to 3 weeks where Harden is battling to be a part of this team, we're really going to see where they end up, and I think it's going to be as the 7th best team in the league. Really slipping, not being an A+ team. And
Okay.
that's why I have them here.
Yeah. Sacramento for me, 7 seed, just or
Which I
7
love.
in my power
Yeah.
rankings.
Which I have them
Just
at
to
6.
if you had told me, you had to show me these rankings at the start of the year, I'd be like, okay, okay, okay. Hold up, what? Sacramento at 7? But yeah,
Yeah.
no, they're playing great. They're as I'd mentioned, they're gonna have a home playoff series. It's just the lack of playoff experience that makes me, you know, not so like not keen to just dive in and think that the Kings have what it takes.
Yeah.
Uh,
To
but
trust in them.
we'll see. My number 6 is the Cavaliers. Um,
Nice.
I
Not a
think
bad
they're
spot for
another
them.
true they're another true contender in my
Yeah.
eyes. They've got the defense, and then now with Donovan Mitchell's been playing really well, really really well lately.
So good.
And then
And
everybody
Garland's
knows he
playing so
everybody
well
knows
too.
he turns it up in the playoffs as well. Donovan Mitchell, one of the better playoff performers in the
Oh
last
yeah.
little while. They'll be a very fun team. They'll be a very tough out in 7 games. But one thing to mention though, they don't play as well on the road. They are 29-8 at home, which is really good, one of the best
Yeah.
home records in the league. But they're 18-20 on the road, so that'll be something that probably limits them from being able to come out of the East. Just when you have to play a team like Milwaukee in Milwaukee, play a team like Boston in
Boston and
Boston,
Boston.
uh, those will be
And
tough
even Philly and
series.
Philly. Yeah.
Yeah.
My 6 was Sacramento for all the reasons you mentioned. And I couldn't put them above any of the other teams because we've seen the other teams do things that this
hmm
Kings team haven't.
Yeah.
5 for me, Memphis Grizzlies.
Boston for me.
Ooh, Boston's. I still value and see Boston a lot higher than I guess you do now. So 5 for Boston.
I mean, I,
Explain why
I,
they
I think
aren't a
I
top
think
3 team in the league.
I think 2 through 5 is like I'd say my number one is like my true number one. This is like the team that I think is the best odds. But then 2 through 5 is just like the second best chance. So
I
nothing
think,
against Boston. It's just
yeah,
the teams above
I don't
them
know.
are better. I really like Boston. I think Tatum and Brown, that's 2 good pieces. It's just something about this Boston team. I don't know. I don't know if it's the team. We'll see.
Mm, that's a fair point.
Robert
I don't know.
Williams, like they've had some injuries too, as you mentioned. Smart, not super like fully healthy. Robert Williams
Yeah,
coming back from injury.
I don't know.
Brogdon misses a game every week. Uh, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, White misses time too, but it's just like I don't know. When you go through the names you mentioned and the depth they have and how good their players are, I can't not have them as a top 3, top 2 team.
hmm
Little spoiler alert, but yeah. So move on to 4. This is where we get into my A+ teams. The top 4 teams for me are all A+s. I don't see Memphis yet as an A+. I think they're close. Not quite. Uh, Memphis was my last A team. But now my A plus is now my number 4, Cleveland Cavaliers. This is where I have them.
Hmm.
One of the most complete rosters in the league, even though they play with an 8-man rotation most nights because they really do want to win. It's still a complete roster, and they have guys that they could play and they don't play because they don't need to play.
Hmm.
And it's like that's how top heavy it is also. But it's just like you said, D
Top
Mitch has
heavy,
been
but
so
like not
good.
top heavy where it's like only
No,
one or two guys. It's like top
it's
heavy, but
just
you
like
still have
their top,
Garland, Mitchell,
yeah,
Mobley, Jared
where it's like guys
Allen.
like Jetty Osman don't play, Dean Wade don't play because the other guys on the roster are so good. Where it's like you
Mhm.
don't need those guys to suit up, but they are there and they are ready,
I
and
could for
it's just
sure see like a Atlanta Hawks 2020 where or 2021 Atlanta Hawks, whereas like, oh, okay, the Hawks are like they made a run to the Eastern Conference Finals. They didn't beat Milwaukee, but they
yeah,
they made that run and I
that's
mean they fooled
exactly,
people into thinking that okay, the Hawks are now
yeah,
a true
a team to
contender.
watch.
But I think that's what the Cavs could have. I think
Yeah,
this
I
team
see that
has
exactly too.
I think this team has, always the bridesmaid, never the bride, maybe written all over them in terms of they're, gonna get a lot of attention, but I just couldn't put them over uh Boston,
Yeah.
Milwaukee, and then even Philly, who's
Oh,
my
I
4 seed.
yeah,
Um,
see, ooh, that's nice. I could see the Cavaliers very
or
reasonably beating, Philly, which, I mean, we both did have coming into the season,
mhm.
so yeah. Philly at 4, I like.
It's just because,
I
well,
just
when you mentioned the
I
Harden injury,
fear.
yeah, it's something, but I think he's still a good playmaker, still a smart basketball player. Like even with the Achilles, he'll still be able to shoot well from the line. I think it's
Yeah,
just Maxi. Maxi's the X factor. Where
he
is
really yeah.
can he step up and be a second scoring option behind Embiid, with Harden taking a little bit of a back seat. We'll see. So
Yeah, oh, for sure.
there's a lot of question marks around the team, but I still do think that just the way that Embiid's playing right now, uh, he's a hard guy to beat himself. And then they have, a really great roster around him. Like I love Harden and Embiid together. I love Maxi. Tobias Harris is good now because he's the fourth best player. Like he's never expected to win the team a game or anything like that. He's just do your thing. And then yeah, bring in like McDaniels. I really
Yeah,
like.
great
Uh,
move.
yeah. So I have the Sixers there, and then
And
my
then
number
having a
you have number
ha
did you mention yeah, your 4 was the
four
Cavaliers?
was the Cleveland Cavaliers for all the same reasons you said and more.
Mhm. And then my number 3 is Memphis, just because
Nice.
mentioning the fact that they were 6-3 with pretty big wins without Jaw, now they get Jaw back. I think right now this team is in the right headspace. They're finally starting to take things a little more seriously after this whole Jaw thing. And then yeah, they've
Yep.
got a really deep team. Like they've got a really uh they've got amazing spacing. Like pretty much every player on this roster can shoot the three, and that really helps. And then a depoy candidate in Jaren Jackson Jr. He's going to be able to go head to head against a guy like Jokic in the West,
Yeah, it'll make for good matchups.
against a guy like Giannis in the finals if they make it there, against a guy like
Of
Embiid
course.
in the finals. So he allows you to be able to not take away the other team's best player, but surely limit them from just having a field day.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
agreed.
why Memphis is my number 3.
I like that. I like the all very good reasons. Like I am at my 5 just because of the uncertainty with everything, but like
And like I said, like
the energy in
Boston's my
Memphis is
5,
so good.
Memphis is my 3, but you could switch them. You could switch like my 2 through 5
Yeah.
is just my second
Yeah, and then
tier.
at Denver as well, like can also be swapped around with any position here. My number 3 is the Denver Nuggets.
They're my number 2.
Best team in the West,
Hmm.
but
Yeah, I just think they have the best chance to come out of
yeah.
the West right now.
Yeah, me
Uh,
too.
so that puts them there. Jokic
Yeah.
playing really well. Murray's coming back healthy and he's really good. MPJ pretty good as
He's
well. And
he's
then
trying his best. It's not looking like a great contract at this point in time
oh no,
though.
terrible contract. Awful contract. And then
Yeah.
their depth pieces I really like as well. Like KCP, Bruce
Yeah.
Brown, um,
Thomas Bryant.
Thomas Bryant. Yeah, just
Like
a
it just
solid
yeah.
team, and they're very well coached too. Mike Malone.
They got
Um,
rid of Bones Highland, which I think was the best thing they could have done, is that it just wasn't working with him there.
mhm.
So, yeah.
Murray, another playoff performer, at least from what we saw in the bubble. So I think Denver, unless they get just like an unlucky matchup against like Golden State or the Lakers in the first round, I think Denver is going to be a team that makes a deep run.
My number 2 is Boston Celtics. It's hard not to see them there. Is like them and the Warriors were coming into the season with the same perception, and one of the teams lived up to it, and the other team didn't. And the Boston Celtics have shown us why they were in the finals last year,
Mhm.
all year long, and only got better. They got more players that play bigger roles and play better minutes. Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon, Robert Williams is healthy. So like it's hard not to have them at the two, but there's one team better than them, and there's one team that I think it's hard. It's the only team I would not bet against, and I definitely I'd say we have the same number one overall ranking,
Yeah.
Milwaukee Bucks.
Hmm.
They're so good. They're so good.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It is one of the better teams I've seen with my own eyes. And we said it last time we recorded about basketball, where it was like, wow, Milwaukee's so good. And we're months later, wow, Milwaukee is so good.
Yeah. Hmm. I think you have Giannis as your top guy. Middleton, he's been able
Coming
to,
back. They
yeah, he's been
needed him
able
back.
to just like, work his way back into things. He hasn't like they've been so good all season that it's not like he needs to play 40 minutes or anything like that. Drew Holiday,
All-star Drew
Drew
Holiday.
Holiday has been amazing, and he's a big part of the reason why they're first seed in the East because Giannis missed some time, and then obviously Middleton's missed some time, but Drew Holiday's kind of just been the guy that's been there most of the games, and he's been playing really
Deservedly
well.
so was an all-star.
Hmm. And then bringing in
So
Jake Crowder, I really like. Brooke
it
Lopez
just makes
averaging
them
like
so strong.
2.5 blocks a game.
Bobby Portis as a almost
Portis
six
off the
man of the
six, yeah,
year. Pat
off the bench.
Connaughton still playing good defense. Like
Grayson Allen,
Javon Carter playing backup point guard. If he ever starts, he puts up 20 and 10.
yeah,
Like
the
it's
Grayson Allen, yeah,
unfair. If it feels like Grace Allen shoots still. He's still there. It's like damn. I don't like if I was a fan like I'm a Raptors fan. We're probably gonna have to face Milwaukee.
another
I
thing
don't want
too.
to. I
Another thing
wouldn't
too
wish
about
that
the
upon my
Bucks.
worst enemy.
Another thing too about the Bucks is you look at the teams that are below them in that second tier: Denver, Memphis, Philadelphia, Boston, Cleveland, Sacramento. None of those teams have won the championship with their current roster, and the fact that Milwaukee has gives, me a lot of confidence in putting them as my number one because they've proven that they can do it. Like,
Yeah.
so
The
I don't know.
next best roster that's won a championship with their current guys is Golden State.
Mhm.
And they are, you know, wishy-washy. So it's
Yeah, I
like,
would not take Golden State over
yeah,
Milwaukee fully healthy.
never, never, ever. So
And I
yeah,
think
I,
and I
I
think and I
really
think Milwaukee too, if it's not for Chris Middleton injury, right now the storyline could be, are the Bucks gonna three-peat? Like,
I think the storyline right now could be the Bucks gonna have the best regular season of all time if Middleton is consistently in.
well, I'm saying
Like,
Middleton getting hurt last
I know.
season. Like,
Oh,
I
of
think
course, of course.
I think they lost to the
Oh, yeah,
Bucks.
yeah, yeah.
They lost
They
to
lost
the
to the
they lost to the Celtics in Game 7 without Middleton that
with
entire
no
series.
Middleton. Yeah. God,
So
yeah. Completely slipped my mind that. Yeah.
tell me
They
that
they beat the Warriors.
tell me that the fully healthy Bucks aren't winning the championship last year.
They
Like,
beat the Warriors last year. Yes. 100%. There's not a chance that Wiggins does the stuff he does in the finals if the Bucks make it
and
fully healthy.
anything Andrew Wiggins is going through, hope all the best for
Yeah.
him. Hope to see
Hope all
him
the
on a court
best.
soon. But yeah,
Yeah.
that
But
wraps up our power
yeah.
rankings, and
I
yeah,
only have one thought about the playoffs.
hmm
And this will be probably just the last thought before we wrap up.
yeah,
I'm I wouldn't bet on anyone. If I had to bet on
yeah,
someone, I'd bet on the Bucks, but I honestly think that'd be a waste of money. I think legitimately any team could win. In a 7-game series, any team could beat any team in my top 10.
yeah.
And
I think
I've never
I
once
think
been more excited for the
11. I
playoffs.
think 11 is
Even
my cutoff.
12. At 12 at Miami with me would be mine.
Yeah, my cutoff is the Clippers. I think the Clippers are the last team.
Yeah,
Like,
Clippers at
it
11
goes
for
Clippers
me.
and the Knicks. Like, I don't see the Knicks winning the
I
championship.
just
I could see the
I
Clippers.
can't look at Miami and be like they were in the bubble finals. They can really give a fight to anyone if they're healthy. They just need to be
Yeah.
healthy. And that's why that's my cutoff. Brooklyn Nets at 13 and below. That's where I say like no way. But like Miami and Jimmy Butler goes on a run,
Mhm.
I wouldn't. It would not Like, I wouldn't think the sky is falling if Miami really won the chip this year, and I
The only thing
don't
that's
think
tough
they
for
will.
Miami is just being a lower seed. Their path is gonna have to be like
Oh, it's gonna
Sixers
be
round one, Bucks round two,
yeah.
Celtics round three, and then whoever comes out of the West. So
But I genuinely think that'll be the path for anyone will be even the Bucks out the 1 seed is gonna be so hard.
it'll be a bloodbath. Like when last year the Warriors, their finals run was um a shorthanded Nuggets team,
Yep.
Grizzlies, and
It was a
then
good matchup,
Mavericks, who
which was Luca and a bunch of dudes
and then
at the end of
Celtics.
the day.
So
Yeah.
which is an okay finals run, but this
Oh,
year, we like I
no
said,
matter who wins, it's going to be a deserved finals.
mhm,
Knock on wood, it better be.
and
So
LeBron comes out on
yeah,
top.
we will see. I've never been more excited about an NBA playoffs in my life, though. So we'll
Hmm.
have to definitely get more episodes, NBA playoff predictions once the standings shape up.
Hmm.
But for now, that was a little end of season thoughts, trade deadline, and how we feel about basketball. So
Yeah.
shout out to Ja for playing basketball again and being cool again. Hopefully he plays good. Shout out to Embiid for prematurely winning the MVP in my mind and making me sound foolish.
Hmm. Been a great season so far, and the last little bit, it's going to be very entertaining to see.
All right. So thank you for listening. See y'all in the next one.